Let's go fishing. What's a bird? Ready? One, two. One, two, oh, so it's so hot.
Well, they call it Stormy Monday. Tuesday's yesterday. They call it Stormy Monday, but Tuesday's yesterday. Wednesday's work, Thursday's off, so sad. The eagle flies on Friday, and Saturday I'm going to play. The eagle flies on Friday, and Saturday I go out to play. Sunday I'm in church, kneel down on my knees, I pray. So it's a low down dirty shame to treat me that way. Baby, all right. Just one, two.
I'm gonna do the face over here. I'm sure she go to the
Oh, so we get ready. Ready for myself. No.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. We're continuing our Juneteenth celebration today. And we are now at the point of our day that we're celebrating the 25th anniversary of the Southern University Museum of Art, which is located right next door to where we are right now. It is part of the National Historic District and our museum complex that is here on the back of the campus. So as we continue, I should say, our celebration today, it has been indeed an exciting day so far. Lots has gone on throughout the campus. And so right now, we're going to turn our attention to our program director, our program manager of the Southern University Museum of Art, Miss Monica Pitts, to bring greetings and the occasion.
Good afternoon and welcome. As we gather to celebrate 25 years of the Southern University Museum of Art, we do so during Juneteenth, a commemoration that reminds us that freedom, though delayed, was ultimately not denied. Juneteenth teaches us that liberation is not only about legal emancipation, it's also about preserving memory, affirming identity, and ensuring that our stories endure. For 25 years, SUMA has served as a steward of those stories. Through the preservation and interpretation of African American, and diasporic art, the museum has helped safeguard cultural knowledge that might otherwise be forgotten. In many ways, institutions like SUMA are extensions of the freedom struggle itself, spaces where history is remembered, creativity is celebrated, and future generations can see themselves reflected in the cultural record. Today, we want to honor the visionaries, artists, donors, educators, staff, students, and community members who have sustained this institution. Their commitment has ensured that our heritage remains visible, accessible, and valued. As we celebrate this milestone, let us remember that freedom requires memory, and memory requires stewardship. For 25 years, SUMA has embraced that responsibility, and we look forward to continuing this work for generations to come. So thank you again, and welcome to this celebration of freedom, legacy, and community. And now we will have greetings on behalf of our president, given to us by Dr. Robin Merritt.
I do. I would like to bring greetings on behalf of our Southern University System Interim President, Dr. Orlando McMeans. He couldn't be with us today, nor could Chancellor John Pierre, but they send their best to us as we celebrate this 25th anniversary of the Southern University Museum of Art, as well as our Juneteenth celebration today. They've had the opportunity to visit the museum and to support the museum, and they're looking forward to what's next for the museum. We have lots of things that are being planned, and they are very supportive of those things. And so we thank them in their absence today. And of course, as we said earlier today, Southern University, of course, is the nation's only historically Black university system. And in that, there are 3 campuses on this landmass here in Baton Rouge. It's our main campus, which is Southern University and A&M College, the Law Center, and the Southern University Agricultural Research and Extension Center, all who play integral parts of our museum complex. And for those of you who may not be aware, we have a museum in New Orleans, Southern University at New Orleans Museum of Art, as well as Southern University at Shreveport. So all of our campuses in this system have the opportunity to have a museum. So just to give you a little bit of backdrop as I transition from the greetings on behalf of our president to a little bit about the history of the museum. We have a very short preview that we would like to share with you. We're working on a larger documentary, so this is sort of a sneak peek, if you will, at what that documentary will look like as we celebrate these 25 years of the Southern University Museum of Art. So I'll ask our tech team in the back if you will play the 5-minute video. And Devin Hadrick, as they're queuing up this video for everyone to watch. Devin Hadrick is one of our staff members in the Office of Communications, in the Office of External Affairs and University Relations. He's on the camera right now, but we want to thank him and our communications team for bringing this video to us. April Buffington was on hand, Cameron Fontenot, Janine Tate, and Eric Cantrell back in the office. So how are we doing with bringing up the video, folks? Is it coming up? It was working earlier, so just stand by. Anticipation is a good thing. Thank you, Mr. Baskin.
We got to find a way to bring some love in here today. That's okay to escalate. War is not the answer, 'cause only love can conquer hate. So we got to find a way to bring some love in here today. Pick it sides, pick it lines, don't punish me with brutality. Talk to me, you can see what's going on, what's going on. What's going on? What's going
I'm going to ask that you guys can cue it up to start over at the very beginning. Thank you.
One of the first things that comes to mind is the motivation for having first set foot on it. One of the first things that comes to mind is the motivation for having a museum. I can recall this building when I first set foot on this campus. To me, an auditorium. It had been a building that accommodated funerals, dances, movies, a lot of national guests came here. Roosevelt, American Pop Film was here, WB Boyce was here. So when I think about this building, I think about that history. The time that we began to envision a museum, it was simply because in our travels throughout Africa, that was just a stunning amount of art that we could see not only in museums, but also in people's homes, in the marketplaces, new marketplaces. It was fascinating. And as we began collecting more and more art, much of that was stored in the person's residence on campus. And got to a point where there was hardly any bedrooms left for people to sleep in, and we had guests coming because it was art everywhere. And I recall being at the person's home one day, one Sunday, and thinking, maybe it's time to consider a museum. And I wasn't where it could be. And I was looking across out the back window, and I looked at this building. And I came over here, and the building had been abandoned for about 15 years. Didn't realize that. When I inquired later about this building, I was told that they're going to demolish it. And I couldn't just imagine that. This is one of the oldest buildings on the campus building here in the 1920s. And so when I came over here, there were no lights. I walked in and was surprised because I had not been here in many a year. And this entire downstairs floor was empty. No chairs, no tables, just no walls except for the outer walls. And I began to imagine a museum here. And I remember that day going to a local bookstore, looking for books about museums. And I found a dynamic book of museums around the world and bought that book. And it not only did it have pictures of those museums and their holdings, but it also had the floor plan for the design of all of those. So that was easy enough inspiration. Like, well, there's hope, there are no walls here, maybe we could create that here. And so soon enough, we approached the men and women who worked at the building grounds area, and told them, we wanted to create a museum. I think initially it was started. And we talked about it. Having that book around, it was easy enough for me to take this open space and start doing a diagram of what this book ever looked like. Gave it to our chief architect and put it in some formal fashion. And that became the beginning of the idea. The other thought that comes to mind was the fact that it occurred to me, you're president of the largest structural black university and the only black system in the country. And you really don't have much African American art. So all of those things come to mind in the idea of establishing a museum. And it has really attracted students, faculty, staff, community people from many different types of organizations, schoolhouses. We have children in elementary school, junior high school, and of course, colleges, students from both Southern University and LSU. And so it's been a great 25 years. One of the things that was a great addition right next door to this place is an extension of the museum because the building was built for many other purposes and limited floor space here. And we were able to create a cultural heritage center, which is next door, which has ample space to house many other types of activities which supports this museum and the National Historic District that it's in.
Okay, that is just a tease of a larger piece that we are working on to showcase the history of the Southern University Museum of Art. And of course, many of you saw Dr. Leon R. Tarver in that piece. He was featured very heavily, and he is with us today as our founder of the Southern University Museum of Art, better known as SUMA. He is President Emeritus as well as Chairman Emeritus of the Southern University Board of Supervisors. So Dr. Tarver, we would like to hear from you now, just a few remarks, additional remarks to what we heard on the preview. And I think he's sitting here mulling his thoughts because he didn't know that that video was going to show. He knew he had done this for us, but he didn't know what the outcome was going to be. But this is just a tease of the larger piece that we will be sharing later this year. So, Dr. Tarver?
Sir. Thank you very much. You know, Dr. Merrick was once my student in the graduate program in public administration, and I've known him many years. And when I saw this video come on, I said, okay, she really does know me. She knows that I talk a long time, very winded. So she figured one way of cutting it down was to put that up, surprise me, and then leave something else for me to say. And thank you so very much. I really appreciate it. While sitting here, I could not fail to remember why we're here this day. Usually the celebration year to year for the museum takes place around Founders Day, but so many other things have occurred and happened and kept pushing it back, and someone had the idea of merging this celebration with what is taking place on this campus today. And I must applaud all of the leadership of this institution that has played a role in focusing on Juneteenth. There was a time in our history in this state where every year there were parades in some cities, there were all kinds of occasions in churches, in community organizations, and it sort of faded away over a period of time. But more recently, we do pay some attention to it. And while we're sitting here reflecting on it, I just once again like to point to that river out there, because I'm mindful of the fact that on one side of that river was once another country. In another time and period, it was a waterway which transported many of our ancestors throughout the United States. Part of my family traveled on that river to New Orleans from other places. And that may be the truth for most of our ancestors. This river has played an important role. So I'd like to always recall that, to think about it, and it reminds us of how far we've come. What is taking place today reminds us of where we are, and with some hope and some faith in the future of this nation, we began to reimagine what the future may look like for our children and our grandchildren. And all of that's going to require a great deal of effort and attention on our part. As I think about this facility we're in today, it's because of that museum next door. When the museum was envisioned, it was a way of saying that for a school that's an African-American institution, and at that time, the largest historically black university and only system in the country, 1890 land-grant institution, we should be taking a lead to do that. And it occurred to me that we had very little of our history on any walls or in books or what else. We just kind of let it fade away.
Maybe we found some time in Christmas to think about it, but not often. But as we see the school growing, expanding, not only in terms of students and programs, but in terms of leadership, and we recognize that Southern needs to play a continuous role in what happens in this nation, not simply leave it to what happens in Louisiana or in Baton Rouge. Dr. Merrick pointed out the fact that we had museums in other locations. And I recall 25 years ago, and you heard part of the story, and the other part of it was that imagine this building, which was an important part of our history, being torn down, and that's what the plans were. You keep tearing down one building after another building after another building, and pretty soon you find that our history goes around with it. So we've been able to preserve that, as you see the old buildings behind us, and the ROTC buildings and some of the other few buildings. We should keep them alive. This building here complements the museum next door because it was so small, didn't have much space to entertain larger numbers of people or any kind of activity. So this building became an extension of that museum. They're all in one. People say, oh, we have a Center for Cultural Heritage and we have a museum. No, we have a National Historic District has preserved not only that building, added this building, and thinking about all the older buildings over there, but the buildings now along the bluff and on the other side of the street are now part of the National Historic District. I guess we can thank many people for that, but I certainly like to thank Dr. Merrick because I know how hard she and others have worked to make that happen. So today is a day for us to think about that, to show appreciation for it. I certainly appreciate your being here. And if in case you're roaming around my hometown in Shreveport, stop in downtown across from the courthouse and you'll see a wonderful 4-story building that belongs to Southern University. When I first came here, we were simply renting space in the building. Now it's our building. But also in that building is a 2-story museum, absolutely beautiful. It's in a rather historic place too. And if you go to New Orleans, finally, and I won't say thanks to Katrina, but because of Katrina having damaged that campus to the extent that it did, we were able to carve out of that a museum. And one other thing about it, it's one of only 2 schools in the Deep South, particularly among HBCUs, that has a Master's in Museum Studies program there. We need to move to expand it to Baton Rouge and to Shreveport and to other places across the state, because you can also participate in the program online. All of that's a part of our attempt to try to widen the expression of who we are, where we're headed, and to at least plead to our community to stay involved with our young people, with ourselves, with our communities, and with our organizations. And let's not forget the church, because it has played such an important part in our history. We lose that with our churches, we would have lost so much of our past. And so thank you so much for being here today, and we hope that you enjoy this brief stay in recognition of the 25 years. There are a lot of people here who contributed to that, not just the so-called founder. But I think about Mrs. Kerr, who could not be here today, who was our founding director, who spent 25 years of her life trying to hold on to that museum, to try to keep it alive, and it's doing that. And of course, she's since retired and moved on, but we miss her here. And we want to thank her once again for all the contributions that she has made. And now we have a new team of people out here. We certainly have this young lady here, Miss Monica Pitts, who is our program manager for the museum. And we have another young lady, Miss Quayla Chambers, sitting in the back, who is the program manager here at this center. Working together under the leadership of Dr. Merrick, we see a team falling in place, and we're going to expand that team. We're going to build upon that team, because this institution is committed to the motion that we need to be able to preserve our history and to keep it alive and well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Tarver, for your remarks. Thank you for your vision for the Southern University Museum of Art. We have quite a collection of art, and we want you all to just take a peek at some of the things that are there next door. It is also open and available for tours today, right, Miss Monica? Yes, but this is just a sneak peek, again, of some of the things that are in place at the museum. So we'll pause and let you view that momentarily.
I was born by the river in a little tent. And just like that river, I've been walking since. It's been a long, long time coming, but I know change gonna come. Oh, yes it will. It's been too long living, but I'm afraid to die. I don't know what's out there on the other side. It's been a long time coming, but I know change gonna come. Oh, I asked my brother, won't you please help me? And my brother, knocked me down on my knees. It's been a long time coming, I'm afraid to die. I don't know what's out there on the other side. It's been a long time, but I know change gonna come. Whoa, it's not.
Please give another round of applause to Mr. Eric Baskin. He has been on board with us today. Thank you so much, sir. We always enjoy your music. We have several others that we would like to thank for their support of the museum. I don't know that they're all here today, but in addition to Dr. Tarver and the vision that he had for the Museum of Art, he mentioned Mrs. Vivian Kerr. She is out of town now. She's retired. And we had several others who were with us in those early days of the museum: Leona Burrell, Edith Thomas, Dr. Eloise Johnson, Crystal Hills, and Crystal is still with us. She's just traveling today, but thankfully we still get to keep her, as well as Miss Clyde Haynes. And so if there's anyone else in the audience that you were here with us in those early days of the museum, just wave your hand or stand up or whatever the case. So I understand, in addition to the museum being open on today, that we will be open tomorrow as well, or no? Just today? Okay, just today. Just today you'll be able to take tours of the museum. And I would encourage you, if you are able, to grab Dr. Tarver and take a tour with him, because he gives a tour like no one else. And we are capturing that in our documentary that we're working on, so you'll get a chance to see all of that. But I would ask that Miss Monica Pitts join me at the podium. We have a little something for Dr. Tarver. And if you would join us back as well, sir. Yes, sir, you. I wish you all could see the side eye that he's giving us. All of these surprises that are popping up today. So, Monica, this one's on you.
Okay. Dr. Tarver is just not only a founder and just so active on the community, and he would be modest to say all of the things. It's not just a museum and a historic district, but the board of supervisors still calls on him to head up various task force and all. So we're just doing so much and so proud. And I'm blessed and honored to be able to be mentored by him and Dr. Merrick and the founding directors and the founder of the museum. And so we just have a little token of appreciation for you. I wish you could open it, but can I tell the people what it is? He said it doesn't matter to him. But anyway, we have 2 sets of cufflinks. We have some African covered cloth cufflinks and cufflinks with the map of Africa on them for you. And thank you so much for all that you do, even all the calls. And then you always apologize, say, I'm sorry to call. But it's all good. Let's see. We'll show just a snippet of some of the past programs that we've had here before, some of the past exhibits. We gave you a little snippet of the artwork, and we're going to show you now just a little example of some of the programs we've had in the past.
Ain't nobody worried. Ain't nobody. Ain't no time. Lay it on. So, I know a place, y'all. Ain't nobody worried. Ain't no smiling faces. Right into the breeze. Yeah, baby. Take it back.
Oh, I hope you enjoyed seeing just a little bit of what we have to offer and what we've offered in the past and what we hope to continue to bring to the Scotlandville and surrounding community. So as we conclude this afternoon celebration, thank you for joining us in commemorating 25 years of the Southern University Museum of Art and the enduring significance of Juneteenth. SUMA remains steadfast in its commitment to preserving, interpreting, and sharing the rich artistic and cultural traditions of Africa, African Americans, and the global African diaspora. This work is only possible through the continued engagement of our community. We invite you to stay connected with us by attending exhibitions and programs, volunteering, and supporting the museum's mission. Please visit the QR codes displayed on the posters to stay in contact. Your support helps ensure that these stories, collections, and educational opportunities remain accessible for future generations. We encourage you to spend time viewing our current exhibition and reflecting on the artists and histories represented throughout the museum. As we celebrate both this milestone anniversary and Juneteenth, let us remember that freedom is more than a historical achievement. It is a living responsibility. It calls us to preserve our heritage, strengthen our communities, and continue the work of ensuring that every story is remembered and every voice is valued. Thank you so much for your support. Have a great rest of the afternoon, and we look forward to welcome you back to SUMA very soon.
All right, I appreciate it. Bring this up on the next time. We can do it.
Hey,
It was nice. That was very, listen, that man is just very good. I don't know if we could have done it without this guy. We should never do this again without that again. I mean, his very presence. Reach for about this.
Same time.
Yeah. One of the first things, of course, that comes to mind is the motivation for having a museum. I can recall this building when I first set foot on this campus. It was, to me, an auditorium. It had been a building that accommodated funerals, dances, movies. A lot of national guests came here. Mrs. Roosevelt, Mrs. Mary McLeod Bethune was here. W.B. Du Bois was here. So when I think about this building, I think about that history. At the time that we began envisioning a museum, it was simply because in our travels throughout Africa, that was just a stunning amount of art that we could see, not only in museums, but also in people's homes, in the marketplaces, many marketplaces. It was rather fascinating. And as we began collecting more and more art, much of that was stored in the president's residence on campus. It got to a point where there was hardly any bedrooms left for people to sleep in as we had guests coming, because there was art everywhere. And I recall being in the president's home one day, about one Sunday, and thinking, you know, maybe it's time to consider a museum. And I wondered where it could be. And I was looking across out of the back window, and I looked at this building, and I came over here, and the building had been abandoned for about 15 years. I didn't realize that. When I inquired later about this building, I was told that they were going to demolish it. And I couldn't just imagine that. This is one of the oldest buildings on the campus, built in the early 1920s. And so when I came over here, there were no lights. And I walked in and was surprised because I had not been in here in many a year. And this entire downstairs floor was empty. No chairs, no tables, just empty. No walls except for the outer walls. And I began to imagine a museum here. And I remember that day going to a local bookstore looking for books about museums. And I found a dynamic book of museums around the world and bought that book. And not only did it have pictures of those museums and their holdings, but it also had the floor plans for the design of all of those. So that was easy enough inspiration that, well, it's open, there are no walls here, maybe we could create that here. And so soon enough, we approached the men and women who worked in the building and grounds area and told them, you know, we wanted to create a museum. I think initially they were startled. And as we talked about it, having that book around was easy enough for me to take this open space and start doing a diagram of what this floor plan would look like, gave it to our chief architect, and he put it in some formal fashion, and that became the beginning of the idea. The other thought that comes to mind was the fact that it occurred to me, you're president of the largest historically black university and the only black system in the country, and you really don't have much African-American art. So all of those things come to mind in the idea of establishing a museum, and it has really attracted students, faculty, staff, community people from many different types of organizations, schoolhouses. We had children in elementary school, junior high school coming, and of course, colleges, students from both Southern University and LSU. And so it's been a great 25 years. One of the things that was a great addition right next door to this place is an extension of the museum, because the building was built for many other purposes and limited floor space here, and we were able to create a cultural heritage center, which is next door, which has ample space to house many other types of activities, which supports this museum and the National Historic District that it's in. One of the first things, of course, that comes to mind is the motivation for having a museum. I can recall this building when I first set foot on this campus. It was, to me, an auditorium. It had been a building that accommodated funerals, dances, movies. A lot of national guests came here. Mrs. Roosevelt, Mrs. Mary Bethune was here, W. Du Bois was here. So when I think about this building, I think about that history. At the time that we began envisioning a museum, it was simply because in our travels throughout Africa, that was just a stunning amount of art that we could see, not only in museums, but also in people's homes, in the marketplaces, many marketplaces. It was rather fascinating. And as we began collecting more and more art, much of that was stored in the president's residence on campus. It got to a point where there was hardly any bedrooms left for people to sleep in as we had guests coming, because there was art everywhere. And I recall being in the president's home one day, about one Sunday, and thinking, you know, maybe it's time to consider a museum. And I wondered where it could be. And I was looking across out of the back window, and I looked at this building, and I came over here, and the building had been abandoned for about 15 years. I didn't realize that. When I inquired later about this building, I was told that they were going to demolish it. And I couldn't just imagine that. This is one of the oldest buildings on the campus, built in the early 1920s. And so when I came over here, there were no lights. And I walked in and was surprised because I had not been in here in many a year. And this entire downstairs floor was empty. No chairs, no tables, just empty. No walls except for the outer walls. And I began to imagine a museum here. And I remember that day going to a local bookstore looking for books about museums. And I found a dynamic book of museums around the world and bought that book. And not only did it have pictures of those museums and their holdings, but it also had the floor plans for the design of all of those. So that was easy enough inspiration that, well, there's open, there are no walls here, maybe we could create that here. And so soon enough, we approached the men and women who worked in the building and grounds area and told them, you know, we wanted to create a museum. I think initially they were startled. And as we talked about it, having that book around was easy enough for me to take this open space and start doing a diagram of what this floor plan would look like. Gave it to our chief architect, and he put it in some formal fashion, and that became the beginning of the idea. The other thought that comes to mind was the fact that it occurred to me, you're president of the largest historically black university and the only black system in the country, and you really don't have much African-American art. So all of those things come to mind in the idea of establishing a museum, and it has really attracted students, faculty, staff, community people from many different types of organizations, schoolhouses. We had children in elementary school, junior high school coming, and of course, colleges, students from both Southern University and LSU. And so it's been a great 25 years. One of the things that was a great addition right next door to this place is an extension of the museum, because the building was built for many other purposes and limited floor space here, and we were able to create a cultural heritage center, which is next door, which has ample space to house many other types of activities, which supports this museum and the National Historic District that it's in. One of the first things, of course, that comes to mind is the motivation for having a museum. I can recall this building when I first set foot on this campus. It was, to me, an auditorium. It had been a building that accommodated funerals, dances, movies. A lot of national guests came here. Mrs. Roosevelt, Mrs. Mary McLeod Bethune was here. W. Du Bois was here. So when I think about this building, I think about that history. At the time that we began envisioning a museum, it was simply because in our travels throughout Africa, that was just a stunning amount of art that we could see, not only in museums, but also in people's homes, in the marketplaces, many marketplaces. It was rather fascinating. And as we began collecting more and more art, much of that was stored in the president's residence on campus. It got to a point where there was hardly any bedrooms left for people to sleep in as we had guests coming because there was art everywhere. And I recall being in the president's home one day, about one Sunday, and thinking, you know, maybe it's time to consider a museum. And I wondered where it could be. And I was looking across out of the back window, and I looked at this building, and I came over here, and the building had been abandoned for about 15 years.
All right,
I didn't
right.
realize
At
that.
2:15,
When I
I like to
inquired
start on time,
later
so we
about
could
this
get it on time.
I was told that
I am
they
Courtney
were
Brown. I
demolished.
introduced myself a little bit
And I
further
couldn't
later, and you
just
have just
imagine
walked
that.
into one of the
This is one
greatest
of the
experiences
oldest
of your
buildings
life
on campus
with
building
this
here in
Juneteenth.
1920.
So we're going to talk about
And so
publishing.
when I came over here,
publishing,
there were no lights.
and for the better part of
And I
my
walked
life,
in and was
I
surprised
read
because
books
I had
and
not
things
been
like
here
that.
many years.
And I stepped into
And
self-publishing
entire
as an alternative
downstairs
towards
floor
a
was
traditional
empty.
publisher.
No chairs,
Because
no
sometimes we
tables,
get stuck in contracts
no
that we
walls
can't get
except for
out
the outer
of,
walls.
and you make
And,
pennies on the
you can
dollar
imagine
for things that you
museum
have
here.
written. So
And I remember
anything
that
that I
day
ever
going
wanted to
to
do, I get
a
the
local
opportunity to do
bookstore
it for the most part. I
and
just
looking
fixed
for
it that
books
way, but I
about,
get a chance to
museums.
live out my dream.
And I found
And
a
so this
dynamic
is
book
a
of
full
museums
circle
around the
moment for
world.
me here
And
at
bought
Southern
that
University,
book.
getting a chance to talk to
Not
you
only
about
did it have
another one
pictures
of
of
my
those museums
passions,
and their holdings,
because I started here as an
but it
adjunct,
also
from an
had the floor
adjunct to an
plan
assistant professor,
that
and now I
designed
serve
all
as the
was
proud
easy
interim
enough
chair
inspiration.
of the Department of
Well,
Curriculum
let's
and
open the
Instruction
no
and
walls
School of
here, maybe we could
Education
create
right here on
that
this
here.
campus. Last
so
year,
soon
I was
enough,
sitting in
we
this room
approached
as a guest.
the men and women
Just
who worked in the
experiencing all
building
the
grounds area.
things for Juneteenth. And this year, I get to be
told
a
them, you know, we
part
wanted
of the
to create a
program. So it's so
museum.
exciting for me.
Initially, they
All
were
right.
started. And as we talked about it, having that book around, it was easy enough for me to take this open space and start doing a diagram of what this book had to look like. Gave it to our chief architect, put it in some formal fashion, and that became the beginning of the idea. The other thought that comes to mind is the fact that it occurred to me, the president of the largest historically black university and the only black system in the country.
So that's me,
And
that's my
we really don't
behavior.
have
There's a top.
much
These are just some
African
facts
American
about me. I
So all
am
of
a
those things come to
boy
mind.
mom. I'm God
and
mom.
the idea
I
of
just
establishing a
became
museum.
a grand
It has really
God mom. That's
attracted
my little fellow down at
students,
the bottom.
faculty,
She's
staff,
next, you got
community
people.
people
His
from
big
many
name
different
has
types of organizations, schoolhouses. We have children in elementary school, junior high
His
school,
real
high
name is
school,
Champion,
and
but I
of
call
course,
him P.
college
And he, believe it or
students
not, is
from both
my
Southern
soul.
University and
That's gonna be a big
LSU. And so
boy.
it's been a
I'm also
great
a
25
mom
years
when I'm not not doing
One
things
of the
like this,
things
I
that was a great addition
right
next door to this
You can
place
always
is an
find me as
extension
a
of the
keyboard
museum because
somewhere.
the
I
building was
also
built for
direct
many
my
other
own
purposes
nonprofit, Beyond the
and
Walls
limited
Outreach
floor
Ministry that
space
was
here,
started during
and
the
we were
pandemic
able
to give
to
me an
create
arm to
a
be able to
cultural
reach out to
heritage
other
center, which
people
is next door,
during the
which
pandemic
has
that
ample
were,
space
you
to
know how
house
things
many
work.
other
So
types
this
of activities which
is
supports
some things
this
in the
museum
community
and the
that I
National
didn't
Historic
necessarily
District
intend
that
to do
it's in.
before. And you are seeing now in my capacity as a publisher and an author, because I run a small imprint formerly named Somebody's Answer LLC now. It is called Rebranded Project Narrative. I'm a published author. I've lost track of the amount of books that I've written. I'm not saying that to brag. I'm just saying I got a whole lot to say. That's what I'm saying.
One of the first things, of course, that comes to
And I
mind
serve
is
totally still,
the
yes,
motivation
as the co-director of the
having
LSU writing project. And what
I
we
can
do
recall
over there is basically
this building
do trainings and things like that,
when I first set
teachers
foot
and
on this
districts and stuff like that to help
the
teachers
auditorium.
teach writing from the theoretical
Building
perspective so that our kids can write better. Because in our community,
movies,
in our community, it's been very important that we are able to tell our own stories and our own narratives. So that's what I do. Over there, you already know about me being here, and then here's my favorite line on this
When I think about
slide.
this building,
I
I
am a
think
lover
about
of
that
people.
history.
I am a lover of
The
puppies.
time
I'm a
that
lover
began
of puppies.
envisioning,
And next slide, please.
it was simply because
I'm a lover of children.
in
I
our
love
travels
children.
throughout
Anybody
Africa,
who knows me knows that you can pretty
there's
much get
just
anything
a
out of me.
stunning
Go to
amount
the store.
of art
Go to the
that we
grocery
could see,
store
not
and
only
bring
in
me
the
some
museum,
chicken
but
back
also
on campus. My
in
kids
homes,
ride me all the time and things like that.
marketplaces,
And this flyer actually is for
it was
something
rather
that we
fascinating.
started a city
And as
group
we began
in our
collecting more of that
department.
art,
So
much
they
of that was stored
went from the
in the
chicken with the
president's
chicken. They just sat
residence
down
on
with me, bought me
campus.
snacks, and picked
And
my
got to a
brain for
point
all
where
kinds of
I
information.
saw any
So that
bedrooms
is
left,
who is
people sleeping
facilitating
and
today.
we
Goes
had
to the
guests
next
coming
slide.
because there was art everywhere.
All right, so here's my
And I
contextual
recall
grounding.
being in the
I
president's
go to
home
deep
one
or to
day,
theoretical here because I think it's
one
very, very
Sunday,
important that we keep that
and
simple
thinking,
so that we
you know,
all can
maybe
understand
it's
where
time
I'm
to
cross
consider
from
a
whenever I
museum.
am writing.
And I wondered where it
So
could be.
for
And I was
you,
looking across
you are
out
unique
of the
at
back
social
window, and I
writing.
looked at this
All
building.
right, there are
And I
certain
came over here,
vocalists.
and
When
the
you
building
hear
had been
them sing,
abandoned for about 15
even if you're not
years.
looking at
I didn't
them,
realize that.
you know who
When I
it is because of
inquired
the sound.
later about this
There's a
building,
certain
I
imprint
was told
that they
that
leave.
it
One of my
was
favorite artists is maybe
And I
the
couldn't
very favorite
just
is
imagine.
Layla Hathaway.
This is one
Right?
of the oldest
You know, like
buildings
Layla
on
Hathaway.
campus, building
Still on the
in the
day.
1920s.
Right, okay. So
And
he has a very
so
distinct
when I came over
voice,
here,
right?
there were no
And
lights.
so the what's
And I
my
walked
point?
in
So
and was surprised because I had not been
so
in
there's
here.
certain things that I say certain ways
And
when I'm writing, when I'm
this entire
speaking, that even if you weren't looking at me, you would know it's me.
Chairs, no
The same
tables,
is
just
true,
this empty,
and your
no
authentic
walls
voice
except for
in
the outer
your
walls.
writing. You're
And,
unique,
I
and
began
so
to
is
imagine
your
a
writing.
museum
And because you are designed as
And
original,
I remember that day going
nobody in the world can
to a
tell your
local
story
bookstore,
quite the way that you can.
looking for books
Always
about
remember that.
museums.
Now, there may
And
have
I
been other
found a
people
dynamic
who can
book
tell
of
the
museums
story, but they
around
can't
the
tell it
world
like you can tell it.
and bought that
Because
book.
it's your story.
And not
And
only
we
did it
can
have pictures
embody
of
those
the museums
narratives. And I
and
want you to think in
holdings,
terms of
but it
Thanksgiving
also had
dinner
the floor plan
and being at
to the
grandma's
side of all
house.
of those.
And then all your
So that
uncles
was
and
easy
aunts
enough
are there. And they
inspiration
start telling
as
all
well.
the
Let's open
stories
the
from
new
what
halls
happened
here
when they
and
were
we
there.
could create that
One
here.
of the favorite stories
And
in my
so
family was
soon
how
enough,
Uncle Mark thought
we
he
approached
was
the
Superman
men and
and
women
jumped
who
off
worked
the top
in the building and grounds
and
area
fell down to the bottom. They tell that story.
told them, you know, we
in
wanted to create a
the
museum.
year. And though I'm telling you to
Initially,
you,
startled.
it's not the
And as we
same
talked about
as
it,
when Grandma
having
tells
that
the
book
story
around,
or
it
my
was easy
uncle
enough for me
tells
to
the
take this
story.
open space and
It's
start
easy for
doing
you.
a diagram
And the
of
person
what
who
this was going to
tells
look like.
his or her own
Gave it to our chief
story
architect
holds
and
both
put it in some
agency
formal
and
fashion.
power through
And
the
that became the
narrative
beginning
that
of
they
the
tell.
idea.
How do I
The
know
other
that?
thought that
Turn
comes
on
to
the news at
mind
any given point.
was the
It
fact that
seems like the only
it
folk
occurred
they
to
interview
me,
are the
you're
ones who
president
can't
of
really
the
tell the
largest
story.
historically
And
black
then we get a
university, and
certain
the only
image
black system in the
of a
country.
certain community.
And you really don't
Because
have
of the persons
much
that are
African
used to
American
tell the
housing. So all of
story.
those things come to mind.
So we have to start
the idea
taking
of
on
establishing a museum.
our own
It
stories,
has really
telling them
attracted
from our
students, faculty,
perspective the
staff,
things that have happened. If you
community
hadn't known it by
people
now, I
from
am
many
a
different types of
narrative person.
organizations,
I
schoolhouses. We
love
had
the
buildings in
story.
elementary school, junior
Always
high
have.
school, high
And each
school,
of us
and of
has
course,
one.
colleges,
That's going to be
students
imperative for us to
from
tell
both
in
Southern
this
University and
season.
LSU.
Because if
And
we
so
don't tell
it's
some of the
been a
things
great
that have been
25
integral to our
years.
communities,
One of
to
the
our
things that was
families,
a great
to our
addition
lives,
right next door
they're gonna
to
get
this place
lost.
is an extension of the museum
And so we
because
have to
the
really,
building
really
was
take
built for
the
many other
initiative to
purposes.
do things.
And
So that's my
limited full
contextual
space
grounding.
here,
Go ahead to the
and
next
we
one.
were able
All right. So
to
the first
create
thing I'm giving you
a cultural
5
heritage
C's.
center,
And
which
if
is
you're
next door,
note-taking, this is
which
what
has
you do
ample
so that you
space
can
to
remember
house
it.
many other
The
types
first
of
thing you want to
activities,
do
which
is
supports
create
this
it. You want to
museum and the
write
National
the
Historic
book.
District that
Write
it's
the
in.
poem. Whatever it is that you're doing. How many people in here are already working on a draft of something? Okay, great, great. Wonderful. All right, so possible genres, you know, it's gonna be nonfiction. Some of us just, saying informational text. Some of us are gonna tell fantasies and fiction stories. Anybody like romance novels?
One of the first
We
things
write the
that comes to
Lord,
mind
because I knew
is
it.
motivation
I love the romance
having
novels, science fiction.
I
And then
can
those of us who are
recall,
academicians who are
this
telling
building,
stories or writing
when
our
I first set
narratives
foot on
either
this
from a
campus,
qualitative,
an
quantitative,
auditorium,
or mixed methods kind of version,
been
all right?
building
So all of those things are
comedy,
different types of
films,
writing, but your first thing is
dances,
to get it
movies,
down.
a
You
lot
have to
of
just spend some time doing
national
it.
guest
I, in my
appearances,
schedule now, that's
Roosevelt,
overly inundated with a lot of things. I don't always have time to write, so then I journal. Let me offer that to you
So
as an option
when I
as
think about
well.
this building, I
Spend
think
some
about
time to
that
just
history.
pour those thoughts out. All right, so that's the
time
first thing you're gonna do.
that
Then you need to decide what's gonna be the purpose of the book.
It was
When
simply
people
because
see your book, because if you go
in
in
our
Barnes and Noble's
travels
library, anything
throughout
right now, you're gonna see everywhere
that
of
was
all
just
sorts
a
of
stunning
genres
amount
from different
of art
people.
that we
Okay?
could see not only
You
in
have
the
to
museum,
decide
but
what the
also
purpose of the book is. Are you trying to persuade
in
people to
the
do a certain
marketplaces,
thing? Is it gonna be like
marketplaces.
self-help?
It was
Okay?
fascinating.
Or are you trying to
Looking at
entertain
collecting
them?
more
Do you
black
want to
art,
be funny? Or
much
do
of that
you want to
was restored
preserve some of the
in
things
the
that have been
president's
happening in
residence.
your family, and you want to go on to
Got
tell
to
the
a
story?
point
I
where
published a book
there
for
was
a young
hardly any
lady one
bedrooms left
time
for
who
people to
just
sleep
wanted to
in.
do
We
a
had guests coming
cookbook
because there was art
in
everywhere.
honor of her
And
grandmother.
I
His
recall
grandmother would
being
cook all of
in the
these things
president's
and they were
home
losing
one
track
day,
of all of those recipes.
one
And a
Sunday,
lot of us don't cook
and
anymore.
thinking,
So she wanted to
maybe it's time
preserve
to
those things
consider
so
a
that for
museum.
all
And I
posterity,
wondered where it
everybody
would
who
be.
came
And I was
behind
looking
her
across
would also be able to cook
out
it
the
the way
back
grandma
window,
did.
and I
You know,
this building.
biscuits
And I
and
came
hot
over
water
here,
cornbread,
and the building had been
greens,
abandoned
all
for
of that
about
kind of
15
stuff. I guess you
years.
can tell I'm that hungry.
I realized that.
But these
When I
are things
inquired
that
later
different,
about
different
this building,
genres, different purposes
I was told
that
that
you would write.
they
And
wanted to
then you
demolish it.
have to determine who
And
the
I
audience
couldn't just
is.
imagine that.
Okay? I worked
This
with
is one
anywhere
of the
from
oldest
children's
buildings on
books
the
to
campus building
adult
area
books
in
to
1920s.
inspirational books, all of those kind of
And
things.
so
But each
when I
one of
came
them
over
had
here,
a
there
different
were no
audience.
lights.
Okay? And the story that I was
And I
telling at the
walked
time.
in
So
and
make
was surprised because it
determination
had not been
that way if
many
you are
years.
editing or somebody else is
This
editing,
entire
then go
downstairs
exactly
floor
who your
was
target
empty.
audience
No
is.
chairs,
All
no
right? Go
tables,
to the next
just
slide.
empty. No
Step
walls
two.
except for the outer walls.
Right? After you have created it, got it
imagine
down
a
on
museum.
paper, like with the blank
And I
paper,
remember
pencil
that day
anymore. I just
going
don't
to
want
a
to
local
research
bookstore,
that
looking
actually,
for books
we
about
retain information
museums.
better
And I
when we
found
take
that
pen to
dynamic
paper
book of
studios.
museums
So all of
around
us
the
who love
world.
being on the
And bought
computers,
that book.
that's
And
good.
not only
Just
did it have
people need
pictures
to, you know,
of
take some
museums
pen
and their
and something
holdings,
about the normal pathway.
but it also had the
That connects a
floor
little bit
plan
better. So the next
for
thing
the
you're gonna
design
do
of all
is
of
craft
those.
it. Your
So that was easy
second
enough inspiration.
key is
That,
to
well,
craft
let's
it.
open
And
the
this is
walls
what
here.
Nick
Maybe
and I will
we could
take
create
most
that
of the
here.
time.
And
All right?
so
Because
soon
here,
enough,
you're
we
editing
approached
and
the
revising.
men and
Everybody
women
say
who worked
editing
in the building
and
and grounds area.
revising. Editing is different from
Told them,
revising.
we wanted to create a
It is.
museum.
I think
It
initially
absolutely is.
Aristotle,
When you
and
educate, you're
talked about it,
concentrating mainly
having
on your
that book
six
around
tricks,
was
right?
easy enough
You're
for me to
looking
take
at
this open space and start
organization and
doing a
voice and
diagram
words,
of what
making
this
sure
will
all
ever
your
look like.
periods are where they need to be.
Gave it to our
Grammar
chief
is still
architect,
important.
and he put it in some formal fashion,
Grammar
and
is
that became
still
the beginning
important.
of the idea.
Punctuation
The other thought
is
that comes to
still
mind
important.
was the fact that
And I know we've been
it occurred
social
to
media
me,
people
you're
and
president of
texters
the
and things like
largest
that, but a lot
historically
of
black
meaning is
university
lost
and the
because
only
the
black
period was in the
system in the
wrong
country.
place.
And we really don't
Was in
have
the wrong place.
much
Okay,
African American
so
art.
all of
So all
that,
those things come
those
to mind
dimensions of language and
in the
sentence
idea of establishing the
fluency.
museum.
Was there anybody
And
around when we
it
still had
has
some
really
diagrams,
attracted
synthesis?
students,
Thank you for
faculty,
that.
staff, community people from many different types of organizations, schoolhouses. We have children in the elementary school, junior high school coming, and of course, colleges and students from Boston University and LSU. And so it's been a great 25 years. One of the things that was a great addition right next door to this place is the extension of the museum, because the building was built for many other purposes. And then there's floor space here, and we were able to create a cultural heritage center, which is next door, which has ample space to house many other types of activities, which supports this museum and the National Historic District
It's
that
not
it's in.
clear to the reader, it's not clear. So here you adding in sections and removing sections and reordering sections, restructuring it. Maybe you need a little bit more dialogue in a particular section, all right? And then from there, we go into formatting. Now, when you are self-publishing, it is going to be supremely important that you
One of the first
decide
things, of
what
course, that comes to
trim size you want to
mind
use.
is the
All right, so if
motivation
you're doing something with a
having a
novel or
museum.
whatever like that, usually
I
that's
can
6
recall,
by 9. That's the one that's about this
this
size.
building,
But if you're doing a work
when I
book,
first set
that can be
foot on
as big as an 8.5 by 8 just global text, things like that. So that's what you're choosing here. All right, going to the next one, we're still crafting it.
funerals,
Okay.
dances.
What you want to do as well, this is going down to your formatting, is make readable fonts. When I was coming up, the only font that meant anything was Times New
American
Roman.
Bethune is here.
Times New
Du
Roman,
Bois
double
is here.
space,
So
double
when I think
spaces
about this
at the
building, I
period.
think
Y'all
about
remember
that history.
All right, things are different
At the
now.
time
Now,
that
as long
the
as it's
initiation
readable, it's good. Some people are using Times, they're using
Because,
paper, they're using
our
Arial. I
travels
wouldn't do anything too
throughout
much
Africa,
more out of that realm. It's not
there
readable.
was just an stunning
Okay?
amount
And then you're
of
gonna
art
insert
that
page
we could
numbers.
see, not only
And
in
once you've done
museums,
this
but
a few
also
times, you'll have a
homes,
template of your own.
in the marketplaces,
Cut and paste and drop things in.
It was
All
actually
right?
fascinating.
You create your
And
chapter
as we
titles.
began collecting
And then
more and
here's
less art,
another
much of
interesting
that was
caveat. You may want to add
stored in the
these things,
president's
especially if you're a
business
novelist
campus.
or you're writing some
Got to a
sort of
point where
self-help
there
book
was
or
hardly any
anything like
bedrooms
that.
left for people
You
to
may
sleep
want
in,
to
and we had
consider
guests coming
getting
because it was
somebody
hard
to
to do
write
that.
a foreword for you.
And I recall
Okay.
being at the
You're
president's
doing
home
that. That
one
means
day
you have to get somebody else to
Sunday,
read it before you
and
publish it.
thinking,
Get another set
maybe
of
it's
eyes
time
on
to
it,
consider
let somebody look
museum.
at it, and then ask
And I wondered
them
where it
to
could be.
tell you
And I
what
was
they think
looking
about it,
across
then what is
out
forward
the
for
back
you.
window, and I
Okay,
looked
so
at this
that's what that
building.
is when you
And I came over here, and the building had been abandoned
there's
for
a
about
forward
15
and
years.
then a
I
preface.
didn't realize that. When
That's
I
written
inquired
by
later
you.
about this
Then
building,
you basically
I
introduce
was
your
told
book,
that
tell everybody what it's going to be about, generate
And I
interest
couldn't
in
just
it. And
imagine
sometimes when
this
you're
is
in
one
the
of the
store, you know,
oldest
we've all
buildings
done
in
this, you
campus
turn to
building
the
in
back,
the
to the
1920s.
office section, or
And
you
so,
look at the person
when I
to the
came
forward,
over
see
here,
what other
there were
people
no
are
lights.
saying about the book before you purchase it.
And I
So
walked
it's
in, I
got
was
to be
surprised because I
good.
had not been in here
I
in
also
many years.
don't leave a book, no matter
This
how
entire
small I be, without
downstairs
giving
floor
acknowledgments
was empty.
and a
No
dedication.
chairs, no
Okay?
tables.
And now
just
that I have been
no walls except
arranged
for the
by
outer wall.
probably all my
And, I
acknowledgments
began
and
to imagine
dedications
a
to
museum.
my grandbaby. All right,
And I
at this
remember
point.
that day going to
all for
a
anybody
local
who's
bookstore,
helped you,
looking
anybody
for
that
books about
inspired you, this is a
museums.
good
And I found a
place.
dynamic book,
Right, to put this
Museums Around
information.
the
The
World.
last book I
And
wrote
bought
in
that book. And
2021
not
is
only
called
did it have
Help.
pictures of
I've
those
fallen
museums
and
and
I
their
can
holdings,
get up.
But it also had the floor
has to
plan
vote
with
the
the design
forward
of all of
voting.
those. So that was
It's
easy
just
enough
so sweet.
inspiration.
So
And well,
those
it's
kind of
open and
things,
no wells here. Maybe we
they
could
also
create
help
that
me
here.
to pull other people
And
into
so
work. I'll
soon
talk about
enough,
working your
we
network in just
approached
a second. But these
the
are
men
things
and
to
women who
consider,
worked
all right? In your
building
building,
and
you go to
grounds
the next
area,
one.
and told them, you know, we
All
want to build a
right,
museum.
so here is just my big time for whatever
And we
this
talked about
word
it,
suggestion.
having
In
that
a
book
second
around,
set
it's
of
easy
human
enough for me
eyes.
to take
I
this
know
open
we had a
space and
chat.
start doing a
I know we have all
diagram
of those things that
of
are running
what
through,
this
and
room
it'll
would look
fix
like.
all the stuff for you.
Gave it to
okay?
our chief architect, and
I
put
would
it in some
suggest that you
formal
get somebody
fashion,
to read
and that
it
became the beginning
before
of
you
the idea.
actually
The other
put it
thought
out.
that comes to
And not just
mind
because you want it to do the
was the fact
forward, but
that
just because
it
you want
occurred
to
to
make
me,
sure that what you've
you're president
written
of the
is
largest historically black
readable,
university and the only
understandable,
black system in the
and
country.
something that
And
you
we really don't
articulated where the
much
audience that
African
you're
American
going for
art.
is able to
So all
really
of those things
digest
come to
material.
mind
Because you may have said something a
in
certain
the
way,
idea of
and maybe they
establishing
didn't
a museum.
understand it,
And
those kind of things.
it
Get a
has
second set
really
of eyes.
attracted
And if you can
students,
be like trying to
faculty,
assist it,
staff,
just to check the grammar, check
community
your
people
punctuation, all of
from
that.
many different
If you're
types of
running it
organizations,
through
schoolhouses.
chat,
We had
you don't want
buildings in
to
elementary
change
school,
your
junior high school come,
right?
and of
So you
course,
don't want it to
colleges,
shoot back and it
students
sounds like
from
somebody else
Southern
singing.
University
This
and
is not
LSU.
really the
And
work
so
anymore. So those are things to
it's
consider
been a
as
great
well. Look at the
25
next one,
years.
thank you. All
One of
right.
the things that
Here's
was
the
a
one
great
that we
addition
forget all the
right
time,
next door
y'all.
to this place is an extension
Have
of
a
the
copyright
museum
your
because
word.
the building
So
was built
sometimes
for
we
many other
publish it
purposes
out there on Amazon
and
and
limited
everything,
floor
and
space
you know
here.
people
And
still
we were
get your
able
people
to
still
create
intellectual
a cultural
property.
heritage center, which is next door,
Even in
which has
music, I'm
ample
telling you what I
space to house
know.
many other
Okay,
types of activities
so
which supports
what you
this
want to
museum
do is
and the
go
National
to
Historic District that it's in.
copyright.gov. This is something you can do yourself. Don't pay anybody. Okay, you're gonna see websites that come and say, we will copyright your book for you in 99. No, you don't have to do that. Because you're gonna end up paying them $60-some-odd to do this anyway. So you go to this website, this is the official one, set up an account, and when your work is completed, you upload a draft of said work, pay the money. Now, and this ain't this, they're always behind. Don't get nervous if you don't get the full copyright exactly back. They backdate to whenever it sends. All right, so if you send it today, it'll be dated for today, even if you don't see it for another 6 months. Okay, the same is true for music. Before you put music out, digital music, like that, you want to get it copyrighted, make it official, because then it belongs to you in the eyes of the
When I think
law.
about this building, I
So
think about
somebody
that
that's
history.
business, okay, you can always take it to the next level if you need to, because it belongs to you, all right?
It was simply
Make sure you do
because
that. So we're gonna copyright our work, yes?
throughout
All
Africa.
right, good. Let's go.
That was just
This
an
is the
stunning
website.
amount of art.
So that you can see, you wanna take a
that we could see
screenshot so
not
you know
only in
when you
museums,
get
but
to it, whether or
also
not it was the right thing.
homes,
This is it.
in the marketplaces,
Copyright.gov.
marketplaces.
Okay,
And it was rather
you're gonna set
fantastic.
that up, you do not
And as
need
we
a
began
third
collecting
party.
more and more art,
You can do this
much of that
yourself.
was stored
All right?
in the president's
And now there's some quick links and information on copyright and artificial
It's hardly
intelligence,
bedrooms
because
left
there
people
are some
sleep
laws
in.
written
We've got
around that
guests
now,
coming
so
because there was
we
art
don't have time to get into that today,
I
but there is some
recall
information
being
there
at the
for you.
president's
All right, go ahead to the next one, and I'm gonna make you aware of this as well. You also, if you plan to sell your
maybe it's
book
time to
in
consider a
stores,
museum.
wherever, you're going to need what's called an ISBN
Back
number.
window, and I
Okay,
looked this
this
building.
is how books are
And I came over here,
identified,
and the building had
right?
been abandoned
And
for about
if you
15 years.
want to just upload and you
realize
get
that.
copyrighted
When I
and all that
inquired
kind of stuff.
later about this building,
Most
I was
on-demand
told
publishers
that
will
they
give
were
you
going to
one
demolish
free.
it. And
All
I
right,
couldn't
and then you don't have to pay
imagine
for
that.
it. But
This is
if
one
you're
of the
looking to
oldest
start your own
buildings on the
publishing
campus, built
company
here
or
in
something like that, you
1920s.
may want to
And so,
purchase
when I
about
came
10 of
over
them
here,
as they come in
there were no
sets
lights.
through a company called Bowker.
And I
Bowker is
walked
the
in and was
official
surprised because it had not been
governmental
here in
settler of
many years.
ISBN. So, why is
This
this
entire
important? If you determine that you want to do
was empty.
of the
no
sign.
chairs, no tables.
And you want to do it at Barnes and
walls
Noble.
except for the outer
All right?
walls.
They're gonna look it up,
And,
see if it's in
begin
the
to
system,
imagine
they're looking it up
museum.
by this number, because that
And
means
I
that they
remember
can
that
order
day
something,
going
put it in the
to
store,
a local
and if it
bookstore,
sells, it will register.
looking for
So you
books
wanna make sure
about
you have all this in
museums.
place,
And
okay?
I
That's
found
why
a
it's
dynamic
important.
book of
All right?
museums around the
That makes
world.
sense?
And
Good.
bought
All
that
right.
book.
Yes, ma'am.
And
Let's do the
not
next one.
only did it have pictures of those
All right.
museums and their holdings,
Now we've done all that
but
stuff.
it also had the floor plan
We have our
for the
eyes
design of all of those.
written it.
So that
We
was
have
easy enough
edited it.
inspiration.
We got
Well,
something
let's
tight.
open
It's
the
talking
no
about
walls
putting
here.
it in the
Maybe we
library
could
now.
create that
All
here.
right? So
And
the
so
next thing you
soon
want to
enough,
do is
we
to
approached
communicate your
the
work.
men and
This
women
is the
who worked
fun part.
in building
All
and
right?
grounds area.
I would suggest that
told them,
on-demand
we
publisher, I'll
want
put
to
some
create a museum.
screenshots in the next
Initially,
slide.
it started
I like
and
KPP
talk
Amazon,
about
because it's all over
having that
everywhere.
book around,
It
it was
is
easy enough for me
so
to take this
easy
open
to do.
space and
Again,
start
you don't need
doing
a
a
third person.
diagram
You try to make this
of
more
what
complicated
this
than
roof
it
would
really
look
is. I've
like.
been doing this for years.
Gave it to our
So
chief
the
architect,
choose one, they are not
put it
the
in
only
some
one. I'll
format
show you
fashion,
some others on the next
and that
slide.
became the
You're
beginning
gonna
of the
upload your
idea. The
manuscript,
other thought
you
that
get
comes
to
to
create a
mind
cover, or you really
is the
create,
fact
you get
that
somebody to do it. And
it
just
occurred to
now,
me
you can go online and
president
tell the
of the
computer, make me a
largest
cover with this thing
historical
and
black
this thing,
university
and I want it to look like
and the
that.
only black system in the
All
country.
right, make sure that you're
And
using
you
all
really
the
don't
pictures
have
on the back that they are
much
good.
African American art.
Like, don't
So
take
all of those
a
things come to
selfie
mind
of yourself and
in
put it on, because you want
the
to be
idea of
professional,
establishing a
and then put that
museum.
on the
And
back of
it
your
has
book.
really
All that
attracted
counts,
students,
okay?
faculty,
Then you get to
staff,
choose your pricing.
community
How much you
people
want to sell it
from
for?
many different types of
And then get
organizations,
published.
schoolhouses.
It's
We had
just
children
that
in
simple. I
elementary
promise
school,
you.
junior high
Go to
school,
the
high
next
school
one.
coming. And of course,
Here's some
colleges,
examples, all right?
students from
So
both the
Kindle,
Southern
direct
University
publishing is
and
actually Kindle,
And so
that's Amazon.
it's
All right, when we
been a
think
great
Kindle, we just
25
think,
years.
in terms
One of the things that was
their
a great
online,
addition
web-based
right
books,
next door to
but
this place
you
is an
can also
extension
get
of
the
the
hard
museum
copies
because
of
the
everything
building
that
was
you're
built
doing.
for
So
many
you
other
walk through
purposes
that process,
and
they give you
limited
a
floor space
bookshelf
here.
where
And we
all
were
your books
able
are listed,
to
and
create
you roll from the, they
a
give you
cultural heritage
authors
center,
page
which
for
is
free,
next door,
okay?
which has
Then
ample space to
Ingram
house
Spark,
many other
that's
kinds of
another one,
activities which
just
supports
like,
this museum and the
Amazon.
National
It
Story
is
District
just
that it's in.
equally as popular. Okay, you can use it, it'll walk you through, you put all the information in, tell them how much you want to sell the book for, and then you start getting royalties. Generally, they send them out quarterly, but I'll tell you a workaround to that in just a second. Lulu.com was one of the first companies that I used. They are a little expensive. Okay, there's a page limit on, certain ones that you, and then they sometimes set the price for you. And I found that the royalties are not as big as they would be on like an Amazon or Ingram Spark. And then Barnes and Noble also has an on-demand publishing, self-publishing option. So if you wanted to go that route, you're already in their system.
Guests came here.
Okay, so you would say, hey, I'm a local author, I have this book, would love to be able to do a book signing in your store. They're gonna say, oh, you already bought my house. And they'll order certain amount of copies, set you up with a little table, and you come in and smile at the people and sign the book. All right? So those are options, that's 4 different options. I personally
throughout
I
Africa,
can't repeat, because it's easy.
that
Very,
was
very
just
easy
an
to do,
stunning
okay?
amount
And
of
once you
art.
upload everything within about 48
Not only
hours,
in
generally it's
museums,
less than
also,
that. Within 24 hours, they'll approve it. And say, okay, you're good to go, it's
marketplaces,
live.
new marketplaces.
All right, if there are errors in it, if you have photos or
we
something
began
like that,
collecting more and more art,
clarity is
that
not
was
good, they
stored
tell you that, so you
in
can
the
go back and
president's
fix it and things like
residence
that.
on
Okay,
campus.
you go to the next one?
And got to a point where
All right.
there was hardly any
Now,
bedrooms left for people to sleep
after
in.
you have
And
done
guests
that,
coming in because there was art everywhere.
celebrate.
And
Please go
I
take
recall
a
being in the president's home one day
everybody
about
that you are a public author
and
your book is out
me
and
trying
ready to be
to
sold. Like you have done
and I wondered where
something
I could be.
magnificent.
And I was
Tell the
looking
people,
across
why do we
out
have
the back
Tell
window
the
and I
people,
looked at this building.
okay, stop
And I
living
came
your
over
life.
here.
You're an
And the
author.
building had been
Tell
abandoned
the
for
people,
about 15
okay?
years.
I want you to consider as well a
When I
personal website to
inquired
be
later
set.
about this
Let me
building,
tell you why I'm saying
I
that
was
because they
told
get to the last
that they
line.
were going to demolish
Because
it.
when you put it on
And I
Amazon, you know who's gonna
couldn't
get paid
imagine
first?
that. This is one of the
Amazon
oldest
is gonna get
buildings in
paid.
Kansas
You
building
think it's
in
gonna,
the
you need to
1920s.
understand part that.
And so when I came over here, there were no lights.
Because they sell them cheaply to you.
And I walked in,
So
I
if you
was
do a
surprised
$10
because it had
book,
not been in a year,
it's different
maybe a
$10.
year.
Buy
This
50 of
entire
them and
downstairs
$240 a
floor
piece.
was
And
empty.
then sell them on your website.
This
However much
no
you want.
walls except for the outer
Right?
walls.
Or
And,
if you're doing a book
you can
signing, you're
imagine
inviting
a
people in or
museum.
whatever like that, you're gonna have hard
And I remember that day going to a
That's the
local
way to do
bookstore,
that, is to get your
looking
own
for books
website.
about
And to sell them
museums.
today. You can upsell
And I
them,
found
you can
that there were
downsell them, if you wanna give
museums
them away,
around the
you can do
world
that. Totally
and
up to
bought
you.
that book.
I'm just telling you ahead of
Not only
time.
did it
If
have
you're
pictures
only
of those
cautious
museums
for
and their
it's somebody else's website,
but it
you
also
will
had
never
the floor
become a
plan
New York Times
for the
bestselling
design of all of
author.
those.
Because even
So
though
that
the
was
work
easy
is
enough
good,
inspiration.
the
That,
people are
well,
looking
let's
at
open the no
numbers.
walls here. Maybe
All
we
right?
could
So
create
that's
that
something
here.
important for you to know.
And so
That's just a
soon enough,
suggestion.
we
I ran
approached
into some
the
walls with that and I
men and women
learned
who
that that's
worked
the
in
best way
the
around.
building and grounds
Okay?
area.
It's social
And
media. How many of
told them,
you
you know, we
have
wanted to
social
create a
media
museum.
accounts?
I think
Facebook,
initially
Instagram,
Aristotle.
TikTok, because
And
that's where all the
talked
people
about
are
it.
there on the TikToks.
Having that book around, it was easy enough for me to take this open space and start doing a diagram
So you may want to do
of
some
what
advertisement
this floor
there.
would look like.
They also allow you to
Gave
pay
it to
like
our
a
chief
certain
architect
fee and you can have your
put it in some
advertisement to
formal
keep kicking
fashion.
out. We'll put it in
That
front
became
of
the
more
beginning
people.
of the
That's something to
idea.
consider as
The
well.
other
If you have a
thought that comes
budget,
to
I have
mind
never had a budget when I
is
was
the
writing
fact
books, so I
that
just did the work.
it occurred
Because I
to me,
enjoy writing.
you're
Okay,
president
so that's
of
something for
the
you to consider.
largest
I also talk about both
historically black
sides.
university
But how do you get
and
that
the
done?
only
You
black
work your
system in the
immediate
country.
contacts.
And you
Okay,
really
you
don't
work
have
the people that are around you.
African
Okay?
American art.
If
So
you
all
are a
those things
churchy
come to
person and
mind
you know a bunch of people from church,
in
that's the first
the idea
people
of
you need to
establishing
talk
a
to.
museum.
Because
And
we always talk about
it
we gonna
has
sow
really
into the lives of others,
attracted
right?
students,
When you give them something to sow
faculty,
into,
staff,
say, hey, listen, got this
community
thing.
people,
You know, so
from
if
many
you're
different types of
you can be
organizations,
on this campus,
schoolhouses.
you
We
work
had
at
children
some
in the elementary
university,
school,
you are
junior
in
high
a
school, high school
department,
coming.
you work on
And
a
of
school
course,
campus.
colleges,
Wherever
students
you
from both
are,
Southern
you
University
become
and
your
LSU.
best
And so
marketing tool. Work your
it's
network.
been a great
Work the people
25
that are in
years.
your vicinity,
One of the
in your
things that
circle.
was a great addition
All right? And if you have
right
not
next door
fallen
to
out with all
this
the people
place
in
is
your
an
family,
extension
go
of
to
the
your
museum
family.
because the building was built for many other purposes and limited floor space here. And we were able to create a cultural heritage center, which is next door, which has ample space to house many other types of activities which supports this museum and the National Historic District
You already gave
that
it to
it's
them. It's the
in.
gift. It's the gift that keeps on giving. Okay? So those are the things for you to consider as well. And you need to celebrate it big time. Celebrate that. It's on balloons. And guess what? If nobody else celebrates, you go ahead and clap for yourself. Right? Because you did it. That's a very difficult feat. And it forces you into a position where you have to be supremely transparent. Especially if you're writing about your own experiences, because you don't know how people are going to take
The
it.
motivation
So, it can be
having a museum.
change the names to protect the peace.
I can recall
You need to do something like that, because you know, we like doing
when I first set foot on this campus.
let's have all our business
the
taken
auditorium.
back. All right, go to the next one. After you have celebrated, then you have finished your first step. Okay, so I'm gonna open the floor for the next 2 minutes before your walk at 3. Any questions that you might have from me? Yes, sir.
Mayor Powell Bethune was here, Tabitha Wars was here. So when I think about this building, I think about that history. At the time that we began envisioning a museum, it was simply because in our travels throughout Africa, that was just an stunning amount of art that we could see not only in museums, but also in people's homes, in the marketplaces, many marketplaces. It was rather fascinating. And as we began collecting more and more art, much of that was stored in the president's residence. Got to a point where there was hardly any bedrooms left. People sleeping, and we had guests coming because there was art everywhere. And I recall being in the president's home one day, one Sunday and
Right.
thinking,
But you can just put it in one volume,
maybe it's
volume
time to
one.
consider a museum. And I wondered where it could be. And I was looking across
That's absolutely correct.
the back
I've done it with
window
music
at this
before,
building.
like if I
And I
had
came
10
over here,
songs or so.
and the building
It's
had been
expensive if
abandoned
you do
for
each one
about
of them
15 years.
individually, but if you call them and all of them.
When I inquired later about this building, I was told
Absolutely
that
correct.
they were going to demolish it.
A suggestion,
And I
a
couldn't
question.
just imagine that.
Yes.
This is one of the oldest buildings on the campus, built in the early 1920s. And so when I came over here, there were no lights.
You could try to trademark
And I
it,
walked in
but
and was
it's
surprised
gonna
because
be
I had not been in
once
here in
you-
many a year.
Once you publish.
And this entire downstairs floor was empty.
Yes, sir.
No chairs, no tables, just empty. No walls except for the outer walls. And I began to imagine a museum here. And I remember that day going to a local bookstore looking for books about museums. And I found a dynamic book, Museums Around the World, and bought that book. And not only did it have pictures of those museums and their holdings, but it also had the floor
Absolutely
plan
not.
for the design of all of those. So that was easy enough inspiration. Well, let's open the no walls
To
and
that,
maybe
when
we
you
could
gave it
just
to them,
create
was there a
that here.
form in your
And
contract
so
that said,
soon
"We now
enough,
own the rights
we
to how
approached
this-"
the men and women who worked in the building and grounds area and told them, we wanted to create a museum. I think initially they were startled. And as we talked about it, having that book around, it was easy enough for me to take this open space and start doing a diagram
So the
of
company
what
that
this program would
originally
look like.
handled my
David,
dissertation
our chief
and made a
architect,
monograph of
put it
it.
in some
It was
form
cool
and
and all
fashion,
that, but the company
and
got
that
bought by
became the
another
beginning
company.
of the idea.
And when I was
The
by
other
all the
thought that comes
copies,
to
it was
mind
just, and it no one
was
was
the fact that
extracting a lot
it
of money.
occurred to me,
So what I did
you're
was
president
repurpose
of
it,
the
change the
largest
title.
historical
Ran it
black
through
university and the
Now it's
only
mine,
black
completely.
system
I
in
can
the
sell it for
country.
whatever I want, so that's
And
positive.
you really don't have much African American art. So all of those things come to mind in the idea of
Oh,
establishing
yes.
a museum.
That's why I
And
don't use them.
it has really attracted students, faculty, staff, community people from many different types of organizations, schoolhouses. We had children in elementary school, junior high school coming. And of course, colleges and students from both Southern University and LSU. And so it's
Yes, ma'am.
What are the current trends? Like what books are people reading right now that I'm sitting here being inspired? I'm thinking like maybe I should get one of my children to write a book.
Absolutely.
And get all the pieces of that book together using this concept. So what's hot right now?
So what's hot right now, a lot of self-help, believe it or not, for right now. A lot of inspirational, a lot of people are looking for things to stabilize them. So anything that's around that, and in your kids' books, real stories about real life, things that are really going on. So like books on bullying or, that kind of stuff. That would be very, very good. Yes.
I'm in the phase right now with my book, with the publishing piece, and I do have my own website. And I heard you say that to collect the information for the people that will be buying the book. I was told I sent them to my website instead of KDP, but I heard you say that you use both.
Yeah.
So what, the book on your site and KDP's the same price?
Well, yeah, for the most part. For the most part. So last time I think I did 10 on Amazon, and then on my website it's also 10 this time, but it's a solid 10 to me. The only thing that I paid for is the cost of printing, which is $2, whatever that is. Now, on Amazon, what you're gonna save there is they'll be mailing it directly to the people, stuff like that. Yes,
So-
service.
From your site,
Yeah.
you have to package it and send it to them?
Yeah, I do. Or if I schedule something, Like say for today, it may have been one of those things. I would have just brought books with me and then did it live, you know, whatever. Because you have to like what you can do. It's both and.
Okay.
Yeah, it's never a bad thing for exposure to have it in both places because people know Amazon, they don't know you yet, right? So at least it's there. Mhm.
So you don't do, as to where they order your book, you put in an order on Amazon and have Amazon?
I keep them in stock
Oh, okay.
at the house. I always have, you know, copies of things and stuff. So if somebody orders and I see it, I just send it out. Yeah.
And with the taxes and all?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. Because Amazon's gonna add that in anyway, the taxes on there. I'm not sure how that works on the other ones that I presented, that includes, I got really used them, so. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes.
I was late. I just went to my books that morning.
Oh, created. Almost created, so do the writing part, yes. Absolutely.
That's fine.
Do you have any suggestions on like procrastination, like there's places, times to write, like, you know, 'cause we have these things in our head,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
I
I know
do.
some writers say, you know, they go out of town and they go for a weekend and they do.
Yeah, but not everybody can do that when you have a job and kids and. I want to take a writer's retreat, but what I do, what works with my actual circadian rhythm is to do it early. I'm the clearest first thing in the morning, but that's me, okay? Because after I have been on campus and I have dealt with the students and staff and all of that other kind of stuff, I don't always have it to give to my writing because I'm tired and I just want to veg out, okay? But I write better first thing in the morning or weekends, stuff like that, and I don't have a whole lot going on. Mm-hmm. Yes.
How long has your process been? Like, have you started something, then stopped for a while?
I have. Boy, y'all just, ooh, these are good questions. So I'm actually in the middle of writing one now that has been going on for the last 2 or 3 years. And the reason why I haven't been able to finish it is because every time I start trying to write it, I start crying. Because it pulls on parts of me. I think it's going to be my most transparent work. It's called Living Losses, and it's about grief that doesn't die. So every time I start trying to write about it, it's like, you know, think about, you know, parents with Alzheimer's and things like that. The person is alive, but they're not the your person, you know what I mean? So it's about that. So yes, that does happen. Sometimes you can start, you gotta put it down until you're able to do it, you know, that kind of thing. So that's all part of the process too.
Oh, it's gonna be a bestseller.
Oh, don't do that.
It's gonna be a bestseller.
Don't do that. There's so many people are dealing with that, you know. Most that are still alive. You divorced, the person ain't dead. They're still alive, but you're dealing with the loss of it, so. Mm-hmm.
So in your process, do you outline, how do you order your writing?
It depends on the topic. So sometimes I don't have to outline at all because I've been outlining it in my mind. You know what I mean? So when I sit down to write, it's just coming. It's just, you know. But then there are other times I have to outline chapter titles and stuff like that to kind of keep myself on so that I don't talk about too many things at one time. Does that make sense? Yeah. Mm. Great questions. Great questions. Anybody else? All right, well, let's go to the next slide and let me tell you what I have for you. All right, so I'm gonna do a free 99 workshop. I would love to be able to work with you individually, working on something, and you just need a community of people to work along with you. I'm gonna do a free, basically, writing club group. We all gonna get together, not necessarily in person, but I will walk you through this experience, what it's gonna look like to write, and then you'll have a human, physical person, not ChatGPT, me, okay, to actually talk to and work through this process with. All right, moving to the next slide. If you are interested, please sign up with this link. It's gonna ask you some questions. There's got some other stuff there. You can tell me exactly where you need assistance. put your info in, it's gonna hit my website, and I will be in touch with an actual date where we can start this thing off and complete it. I think it's gonna be great to help you to get to the finish line, because when I asked who was already writing, most of you had your hand up, which means you're in the middle, you're in the thick of it. And what I wish I would have had when I was in the thick of it was a person to hold my hand and say, "You got this. Let's do this together." Okay? So that's what I want to do with and for you for free 99. No charge at all. I just want to assist. Okay? All right. Did everybody have a chance to do that? We're good. Awesome. Go to the next one. I think we're out of this thing. Yes, thank you so much. I appreciate you. Spending some time with me today on the Juneteenth. This was so wonderful. Thank you for signing up. And if there's anything that I can do to help you to get where you need to go, I'm willing to do that. All right? Okay, thank you so much.
Yes. Are all your books on Amazon as well?
Yes, they're all on Amazon and also on my website.
What is it?
www.project, it's a hyphen narrative.com.
Thank y'all so much. It's so wonderful.
That's not. It's on. Okay.
I'm still.
So, excuse me. This is French.
Louisiana Freedom. Good. Kind of put it throughout.
Oh, this is awesome. You know, it's my first set.
Yeah.
This other good. Soul systems and they
The first thing
I'm so serious. My little finishing job like teaching. Yeah, I just went to the first and get into a lot of See, the professionals pay for it. There you go. No, you didn't put recipes in it.
I did. The mom has won 4 years in a row.
Okay.
And I just thought, hey, maybe teacher would want to do cooking project.
Absolutely. That is good.
Something like that.
Okay.
And it was www.project.com.
I did the perfect therapy last year. So you did stuff. No, thank you.
He looks at me. Right. He looks at me. Having a spring too.
Okay.
So that's the way.
Let's do it. Yes.
Is it a purchase? Okay. Yeah, that is. No, no, we did a great of the Syracuse feedback track.
See, I technology is very careful.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I do.
But that's what very careful. That's very careful. I do great. See, I know, let's see. The question is, yeah. United. Our father was working. Both got me a rough and he did get involved. Yeah, my father was at Texas. So, plus they did it. But I was around celebrity good. Yeah, they want to know what it fortunate to have my books, but so they can tell that they don't look at you. So I don't believe marching in. Let us be. She's singing. I don't see her. She's wait for it.
That's my Angela, and you know, both of us to support that. Yeah, they're.
Walking up the freedom way. I wanna get nobody. Turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let it nobody. Turn me around, keep on walking, keep on fighting. Walking up the freedom way.
All right, hello, everyone. How y'all doing? How was that march? It was good? You fired up? You ready? All right, very good. So we're going to begin this segment of this fabulous day with a treat. We have with us Jaden Bennett, who is a student here at Southern University. She is a member of Southern University's dance ensemble, and she is a computer engineering major with a minor in computer science. She's not in my college. I'm Cynthia Bryant, the Dean of the College of Humanities and Interdisciplinary Studies, but I'm so happy she's a part of our dance ensemble, and y'all are going to enjoy this. So give it up for Jaden Bennett. All right, thank you so much. We're going to move on to our next panel, and I'm going to invite forward Dr. Raquel Els, who is going to be moderating for today's panel on voting should be the focus. And on the panel will be Councilman Dow Hurst, Dr. Paul Race, and Dr. Melanie Johnson. Please give them a wonderful applause as they come forward to do the good work of discussion on voting.
Where you sit, how you doing?
Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you for being here. I'm so excited to see all the little buddies here from the Big Buddy program. Thank you so much for your presence as well. On this afternoon, we're going to talk about the power of voting, citizenship, and freedom. As we gather around holidays that are focused on freedom, we want to reflect on history, but today we're going to be focusing on how those freedoms help shape the lives in our community through action, and that's through voting. We'll start today by introducing our panelists. Please join me in welcoming Councilman Darrell Hurst, who represents District 5 on the East Baton Rouge Metropolitan Council. Since taking office, he has been a strong advocate for economic development, community engagement, and quality of life initiatives in North Baton Rouge. He'll bring today a great perspective at the local level. Our next panelist is Dr. Paul Race, who is a physician, attorney, and legal scholar whose expertise in constitutional law, public policy, and community affairs will provide valuable insight into today's discussion. We're also pleased to welcome Dr. Melanie Smith Johnson, who is an associate professor of public policy at Southern University and A&M College, whose work focuses on civic engagement, political participation, and leadership. She brings more than 2 decades of experience in politics, campaigns, and elections around today. So let's give all of them a round of applause. Our first question for today will be, why is voting considered one of the most powerful expressions of freedom? Why is voting considered one of the most powerful expressions of freedom?
Yeah, I guess I can start. You need to understand that I am an African American. I know that. I know what that means. One thing that means is that by itself, that means I'm a minority. Minorities by themselves cannot do something, but we can have significant influence. I want you to look at this test. Look at question 2. How would you answer it? Yes, go ahead. You put a line under the word line. Okay, anybody else? Would you do anything differently? No, you should have put it under last word. And remember, this says you had 10 minutes and you have to ask, I think there's 15 questions or more. And if you got any one wrong, you were not allowed to vote. This is the Louisiana literacy test that was given. How about you do number 3? What would you do? Go ahead. Yes. And what would you do? What would you put on the word longest? What do you mean? You put an X on it? Okay. Is that right? No, they said cross. You should have put a cross on it. Yes. See, this was the problem with the test. It was in the eye of the person grading it, whether you pass or not. It's what we would call a subjective test, not an objective test. We were denied our rights in Louisiana because of this test. This is the history of voting, and it's not new. The whole point of voting was this idea of how do you get the people you want to vote and stop the ones you don't want to vote. And if you don't learn that history of how we got started, you don't understand where we are today. How many ever heard that Black people were considered 3/5 human? In our Constitution, it actually says that we will be counted as 3/5. Now, understand why that was the case. It was not because we were considered less than human. Some people did, but that had nothing to do with it. It really had to do with the fact that when we do a census to count everybody, if you count the number of people that counted, determine the number of people that are available for the Electoral College, the members of the House of Representatives. And if you do that, the more people you have, the more members you have, and you will count everybody. We have always counted everyone. You count slaves, you count non-slaves, you count free people, you count children, you count babies, you counted illegals, you counted legals, you counted everybody. That determined the number of members of the House. And because you do that, it actually meant that you had more power. That does not mean that those people that are counted get to vote, though, because slaves didn't get to vote. Children don't get to vote. Women needed to be protected and be freed of the horrors of making decisions of voting. So they needed to have someone vote for them. Yes, that's our history. So while they had all these representatives, because they got to count the slaves, they actually did not get to vote. And so what happened is that the northern states basically said, you have an unfair advantage, southern states, because of all the slaves you had. So it was northern states that said, you're only going to count, and they didn't say the word slaves, they used something else in the Constitution. We're only going to count slaves as 3/5. It didn't matter. It was still so many slaves in the South that Virginia had a tremendous amount of voting advantage. And the amount of people in the House determined the Electoral College, and that allowed Southern states, for the beginning of our country, to control most of the elections. Our first president, our third president, our fourth president, and our fifth president were all from Virginia. Our seventh president was from the South. Our ninth president was from the South. Our 10th president was from the South. And then all of a sudden around 1850, things started to change. And then in 1860, Lincoln won, and it proved to the South they could no longer control. And that led to our Civil War. Civil War was about slavery. It's about the fact that the South could no longer protect slavery in the election. I'll stop there for that.
Oh. Thank you so much. The question, I'm going to be very brief, was about the power of voting. And I'm going to backtrack a little bit, but not that much. I want you young people in here to kind of connect the dots to why voting is so important. First of all, I know you've heard about the Voting Rights Act of 1965, and you've heard about it, and you've heard about it, and you've heard about it. And you say, I'm tired of listening to everything about the Voting Rights of 1965, which currently is really about to, well, they're working on dismantling it. But let me connect the dots for you. Voting has power in a way that it determines the people that we put in place, in the politicians that we vote for, that we put in place to represent us. They make decisions on our day-to-day lives every day from the food that we eat, to the air that we breathe, to the health care that we receive, to the education we receive. Is anyone in here, the younger people, you probably don't even know this, but how many of you all are on your parents' health care? Raise your hand. You can go to the doctor because of your parents. It's probably almost everybody in here. So do you think that you have that right just because? How do you think you got that right? Anybody want to answer that? Well, I'll answer it for you. Someone had to write legislation. Actually, there's an Affordable Health Care Act, which is in place now that Barack Obama came up with, that said every citizen in the United States of America has a right to adequate health care. And because he wrote the legislation and the people that were voted on in Congress passed that bill, then everyone in this room has the right to affordable health care. And the one thing in the world, you don't know what it feels like to be sick and not be able to go to the doctor. But that is all because of who we put in place and who we vote for. So your vote, everybody in here, your vote does count. And so that voting gives you power.
So I'm gonna ask everybody in the room, how many of y'all in your lifetime think you'll see a black president? How many of y'all think you see a black president in your lifetime? Raise your hand. All right, my point is y'all got to see Barack Obama. So y'all have seen one. But how many people in this room that aren't of your age thought that they would see a black president in their lifetime? It's a lot of them that will say no. What happened, I'm gonna talk to y'all specifically, is that the younger generation, y'all have gotten complacent because you don't realize the fight that was before you to allow you to be able to do the things that you do today, to sit there with a big buddy shirt on, to have amazing people like Ms. Gaylen Mack, to go out and raise dollars to support young kids that look like her in the mirror. There was a fight for that. And I'm gonna say something different. I think your generation and the one before you take it for granted. And what y'all don't understand is the things people fought for, they're starting to unwind and take away. So as young as you are, make sure you stay civically engaged, which means you pay attention to things that are going on around you that directly affect where you live, work, and play, whether it be the mayor, the president, the council members, the state legislature, the Supreme Court, the local judges. Let me tell you why. Somebody raise a hand and tell me a brand of jeans that you want to put on, that you want to buy. If I said right now, the first person to raise their hand, I'm going to buy them a pair of jeans, raise your hand. Okay, what brand of jeans do you want? What is it called? What is it called? I don't even know what that is. Evisu? The baggy jeans? Kind of baggy? All right, so let me tell you. It's okay. How many of y'all have sagged? Raise your hand if you sagged your pants before. If you have, it's okay. Raise your hand. I'm not judging you. Okay, that's fine. But guess what? The person that will judge you is a person that does not understand you. And so when we elect judges in courtrooms with little black boys that sag their pants, you are a thug. I don't care how great of a household you come from. Mm-hmm. A little white kid that sags his pants, he's going through a fad or a phase in life. They judge you differently because how media portrays you. So my point is your voting power will put certain people in offices that understand you, that ensure that you get the same fairness and liberties that everybody else gets. But when you don't pay attention, you put the wrong person in office, and kids like Carmelo Anthony get sentenced for self-defense. If you don't know who that is, go Google it. I'm gonna stop there because it's been a long discussion, but pay attention, get involved, and don't forget the people that came before you that fought for you.
Excellent. Thank you all for that. And since the majority of our audience are young people, I want to kind of stay there so we can address and help them become better informed about their voting rights. So how can we better engage young or first-time voters?
I just say meet you where you are. I think a lot of times you go in rooms like this. I'm born before you. He's born a little bit after me. And then she's born way behind us, right? So, but my point is that we try to talk up here, but your brains are down here. And so we have to meet you where you are. I'm not going to stoop to your level, which is a difference, but I'm going to come down to where you are to understand. And as I climb, I lift as well and bring you up with me, right? So I have to level set and meet you. I don't care if it's hosting a video game event or having some kind of field day or fun day, and then incorporating small bits where we plant seeds so that we meet you in your moment so that you can then come up to where we want you to be. I think sometimes we talk over your head. We want you to sit and listen to us for hours like we're the smartest people in the room, when y'all have amazing brains and sometimes think better than we do. But also listen to your voice and you tell us what you want, and then we incorporate what we need to sow into you in the place where we tell us to meet you, or you tell us to meet you.
Okay, meeting you where you are is great, but also it's so important to be educated and informed, and you need to read. Reading is fundamental, and that's true. And I'll give you an example of why, and it's so important for you to be civically engaged, but you can't really be civically engaged unless you're educated. So if there's say for instance, a park in your neighborhood that at night you see drug activity going on, and you walking home and you're always, somebody always picking at you when you're going home, and the lights are off in that park. Do you know who you would have to contact to get the lights put back on in your neighborhood on that street? Does anybody? And that's why reading is fundamental. When you're taking those social study classes, it would be your city council person. You would contact your city council person. And by you doing that, no matter what age you are, contacting your city council person to tell them, look, I live on this street, our lights are off, or tell your parents to call them and contact them. That's part of their job and responsibility. And to make sure that those lights are on in your neighborhood, you may circumvent crime in your neighborhood. But unless when you're in class, your regular classes every day, and they're talking about how the government works, you need to pay attention. And not just pay attention, but you need to read, comprehend, and understand how the government works. So that would be one of the things that I would really challenge you young people in here to be able to do. I challenge you to learn to go outside of your box. When you're in class, listen, read, but don't read to memorize. Read to comprehend. And become a change agent in your own way, in your neighborhoods or even at school. You can be civically engaged at school and politically participate. But it's so important that you understand how government works and how you can impact this democracy we live in.
I want to reinforce the reading. Look, here's the thing, guys. I am a baby boomer. That means I was born before 1964. I'm going to go ahead and admit that. And I will tell you one thing about baby boomers. We were the largest generation, and that meant that the whole country, in some ways, catered to us. Because from very early, we're not the largest generation anymore, but from very early, baby boomers got involved. We were active even when we were young. I was 15 years old and we didn't have blogs of the day. I'm 15 years old calling into radio programs because I was opinionated and I read. Now I admit, I understand why you didn't read as much as me, because I wouldn't have read as much as I did if I had an Xbox. To be honest, if I had an Xbox, I had one of those little vibrating football machines, where you plug them in, they vibrate. But if I had Xbox, I would play more. But I still read prodigiously. Everything I can. I don't care whether it's fiction. I don't care if it's Spider-Man. Spider-Man was my hero. Nerd guy got picked on, got revenge, that was me. But the reality is that, yeah, you need to read. You also need to understand, because the things that happen today are not new. This is not the first time that there's been an attack on our voting. We got voting after the Civil War. There was a 15th Amendment that said we had the right to vote. There were enforcement acts that were actually passed in the 1870s that then were used to say you cannot go and prevent African Americans vote. And then in 1876, that was taken away. And taken away in 1890 when we did Plessy v. Ferguson. And it took, and here's the thing, this is why voting is so important. The thing that affects your life more than anything else is the Supreme Court of the United States. They have taken our rights away. They have granted us rights. They've interpreted what is passed by Congress anyway. That's what they recently did. They didn't get rid of the Voting Rights Act. They just interpreted it in a way that it will no longer be effective. So what you need to do is understand, when you are voting, you are actually determining those people that will control your life in the future. And that needs to play a role. I always vote, always. In the primary, I vote for who I like. But in the main election, I vote against who can hurt me the most. And I always, always, always vote. I don't vote third party because they got no chance to win. That makes the person that can harm me the most get elected. You may not know these names. I don't like John Fetterman, but I will always vote for him over Oz. I assure you, I don't like Nixon, but if it was Nixon against Hitler, I would have voted for Hitler. Excuse me, Nixon. You said it backwards, right? And I'm not voting for the Antichrist no matter what. I'm just saying to you, this is what it means. Voting is not just fundamental, it is necessary for the things you want to get in the future. And so to ignore that, then we are repeating the same thing that happened back in the 1870s. The fact that this is happening is not a surprise. We elected a black president. As soon as we elected a black president, there was going to be a response. And we allowed it by us not being diligent to keep what was going. So I would say one other thing. Always maintain personal integrity. Be willing to have your views challenged, because if your views are challenged, you are much stronger in the arguments and what you understand. You can easily be fooled on the internet. Easily. Even worse now since AI. Half the stuff on the internet, and I won't say half, I won't give that number. But a whole lot of things on the internet are just plainly false. Mm-hmm. And I still hear them from some of the most intelligent people in the world. I hear false statements. I'll give just one of them, which you were way too young for this, but back in 2016, Hillary Clinton hates black people. She said that black men are super predators. She never, ever, ever said it. But a large number of African Americans believed it and voted for a third party or didn't vote at all. And we ended up with a blatant overt racist. And I'm gonna say that as president. That's what it means to be educated and learn what is out there and what's going on. Because once he became president in 2016, arch conservatives took over the Supreme Court because of it. And it wouldn't have happened if those people had voted.
All right.
I didn't mean to sound angry, guys. I'm not angry. I am not angry. I'm a happy man, right? I'm a blessed man. Hey, I got a wonderful wife and family. So
yeah. I know that our little buddies have to leave in a few minutes, so we're going to have one final question. As we wrap up, what message would you share with someone who has never voted? What message would you share with someone who has never voted?
My message would be, when the first opportunity you get to register to vote, go vote. Go register to vote and go vote. Exercise your right to vote, not just in national elections, but particularly in local elections and state elections. The local elections matter just as much as the national elections. Like when you vote for president, that presidential election, it matters. But who you vote in office, say for instance, to be a judge that you may have to go stand in front of one day. Make sure you go vote for who's mayor, who are your city council people, who are going to be your state representatives. And always, young people, have something that you believe in, that you find that you're willing to fight for, to make this society a better place, that you can leave it a better place than the people that were before you, for the future generation. Because I notice this generation only worries about the here and now and not the future. Well, one day you're going to be sitting up here. One day you're going to be the future leaders. And so always remember to have something that you believe in, that you want to fight for, to leave for the next generation. And be a leader, and not a follower.
I would just tell you every vote matters. That's the easiest way to say it. People will try to tell you that you going to the polls, one vote doesn't matter, but when you have 100,000 people saying the same thing, you just lost 100,000 votes. So your vote matters, your voice matters. Make sure you stay engaged. And I'm gonna leave you with this. And then after you vote, make sure you hold the people that you put in office accountable. Because people that look like us think that once we're in forever. Because black folks don't pay attention. So vote, your voice matters, and accountability once you put people in office. That's it.
There are two things I put on my syllabus. One, live your life in the future looking back. Meaning you don't make decisions based upon how you feel. You make decisions how your future self will tell you how you should do things now to get to where you want to be in the future. What will your 30-year-old self advise you? And the other thing, always, my father told my wife this, always maintain personal integrity. You know right from wrong. Don't be different just because you're in a group. You know right from wrong. You do right, always. And when you are making that decision, you are making that decision knowing right from wrong. Sorry, guys, voting is everything. When we have in Louisiana 10% in mid-year elections, you're wondering why we don't get what we want. That's because we're not voting. Not you, because you're going to vote when you get of age. And then when you come to Southern, not only will you do that, you know what you're going to do your freshman year? You're going to get other people. In fact, your first doing freshman year, they come in during that week, you will sign up all the new students to vote, to register to vote. Thank you, Southern. That's what's going to happen. I truly believe that.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
And thank you so much, Ms. Mack, for bringing these babies.
Yes. Thank you all so much for pouring into our panel.
I'm just gonna say thank you so much. This is so rich for our young people. I wish we would have started a little earlier. The timing, we're trying to get them back so they can meet their parents on time.
Yeah.
And so
Thank you.
I'm gonna ask that they stand and dismiss this way, that way, y'all go that way.
Thank you all
Yes,
so
that
much.
was it. Thank
That
you.
was
I want to say thank you to Southern University for hosting this as well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
I really do Southern. The
Yes.
first wicked class should be registering people to vote
That was
instead of
good.
parties.
This is great.
It's,
Thank you.
it's one of my little pet peeves.
Oh,
You did great.
I hope I didn't vote
You
no.
did amazing.
Life. Oh. Hey, every time I'm in there, somebody come in there, but I couldn't even do hopefully some stuff like it's being.
We really need to get to,
Don't tell us. Say it.
this talk really needs to be to adults.
When you watch those.
This talk really needs to be to adults.
Absolutely.
That's where the problem is. Oh, my pleasure. Look, you know the real problem with lawyers? Lawyers don't know how to shut up.
Hello, all.
Always
Hello, all.
we don't know how to
Can
say.
be with you.
What year is she? How old is she? Uh-oh. Excellent. So where's she headed? Where's she going to go? Tell her. I have. I see that. That's a good thing. I really very much. I can see that. All right, so let's get this up here. Yeah, no.
Yeah, so we're gonna go into, hello, hello. We're gonna go right into our next panel. I'm not panel, no, you're on the side of it. Our next speaker. Professor Bell is a colleague of mine at Southern University Law Center. She has written several books on civil rights and litigation. She's most notably known for one of the chief proponents for getting the non-unanimous jury overturned. And with that in mind, Professor Bell, Professor Bell, Professor Bell. Right here.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Am I gonna just go ahead and get started? All right. I have everything I need. How about that, Phoebe? I can't. All right.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to be speaking to you briefly about my book, which is called Under Indictment. And I want to start just by taking us back to that moment in time where we're getting this message delivered that we are now free. Major General Gordon Granger. So let's take this journey and pretend for a moment that this is actually not 2026, but this is 1865. And here is what Granger says that day. He gives General Order number 3. And I just want to share an excerpt of a little what he said to those folks. And just pretend yourself hearing this back in 1865. So he says to them, in accordance with the proclamation from the executive of the United States, all slaves are free. Imagine the excitement hearing this from the general. And then he says, this is not just a statement of freedom, but in General Order 3, he says, this is about giving you absolute equality of personal rights. It's also about giving you the right to have property now. And it's also about changing your relationship with the folks who used to own you. Listen to what the general says. From this point on, you're to be paid for your labor. And then he says to the free folks, you can work for labor on the same property. They have to pay you now. Things have changed. But listen to the end of this. He says to the free folks this announcement, and everybody's excited, and there's just so much optimism in the air. And then he says, and let me tell you the end of this. He said that you're not allowed, with all of these freedoms we just granted you, you cannot loiter. You can't hang at the military posts, is what he says to them. And then he says, as much as we are happy to free you, we are not going to support you in being idle. Think about hearing that. So you can feel the energy sort of shifts, I would imagine, from I'm free and I have all these rights to the end of this. You better not be idle because we're coming for you. And so what I want to say to you is that life in this democracy, if we understand what I just said, really starts with three critical things for African American folks. One, if you notice, that statement from Granger did not grant any political rights. This is really important for us to hear what I just said. The statement said you are free, meaning socially free. You can go and move around. You can own stuff, but it didn't give any political rights. So what is the political rights? It is the right to hold a public office. It is the right to cast a vote, and it is the right to serve in a jury box. Now, what does all of this have to do with this book that Professor Bell has written called Under Indictment? And when I say under indictment, what I am indicting is the state of Louisiana. This book indicts the state of Louisiana for the way it has conducted its affairs relative to the criminal justice system and the carceral state. So now, what is the connection? The connection here is that we have to constantly ask ourselves as we leave here today, how do we make sure that this is not just a holiday? That we didn't just have fun, we didn't just go march, but there is something that we will do different to ensure life looks different after today. And that is what the book was written about. So I want to begin with just a few lines from the introduction to Under Indictment. And this is how I describe my journey now as a lawyer for almost 30 years now. The book says, and this is a quote from the introduction, today, 30 years later, I see law for what it is and not for what I had hoped our years together to be. Law has been unfaithful. Law has been abusive and inconsistent and quite deceptive. At intervals, law has been a friend. At times, law has been a remedy. Sometimes it is a solution, but often law is power. In instances, law is trauma. Law is an occasional opponent. Law at sometimes is an ally. In some situations, law is hypocritical. Law is frequently violent. Law can be a weapon. This book is an act of resistance. It is a moment to see law honestly, and it is a cause for us to think about what law has actually done for those folks that Granger spoke to that day in 1860. It is the law that has freed them, but yet it is the same law that has sanctioned their oppression. It is the law that granted them citizenship. It is the same law that has placed barriers in front of them so they can never truly experience it. One observation is that law has legalized our participation in the democracy, but then when we look closer, law has actually sanctioned our exclusion. The book also teaches a little bit about the counter response now that you know what I've just explained. And one of the examples I use in the book is the Maroons. Who were the Maroons? They were people who were enslaved in Louisiana, who came here and looked around and realized it is hot. You know, and to work all day in Louisiana, you're going to get bitten. You're going to be dehydrated. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. I'm not going to get paid. And these Maroons had to make a decision, much like us today, who are saying that we're going to leave here and do something different. We are like those Maroons. We've assessed the realities. The question is, what are we going to do about it? Well, guess what the Maroons did? There's one in particular called Juan St. Malo, who said, I'm not getting ready to agree to this. And Juan St. Malo literally just walked off those plantations. And Juan St. Malo is here from Africa, so he does not know a way back home. Think about this parallel between what we are facing today. And he said, I know one thing, I'm not accepting that. And so he goes out into the marshes. He learns how to live off the land. And then at night, he would kind of come in and barter with the other enslaved folks. So I'll give you this if you'll cook that. And they had a system. And then eventually they started saying, well, wait a minute. Why are we going to consent to this when we can just join St. Malo? And so they all start leaving these plantations and entering into this maroon communities. But before long, the government now has to respond. And how do they respond? They use law. It is law that they use to kill this movement of Maroons. And they go after one, St. Malo, they arrest him, they charge him, quick conviction, he is executed, and his head is put on a pole. It is on a pole to make a statement in Louisiana that this is the consequence for those of you who choose to resist. But I share this story in the book because of what St. Malo did not do. And this is what I'm asking of you when you leave here. St. Malo said, I will not be complicit in my own oppression. I will not be complicit in my own oppression. And that is one of the things that I'm asking you to do. The book also describes me as an activist scholar. It says to the audience that reads, you know, I'm an activist scholar. I don't write to get things on my resume. That's not my motivation for writing. I don't write to get promotions. I write to cause revolutions. And then I say that that is exactly what I hope to do with this book. Now you say, wait a minute, Professor Bell, you're going too far now. What kind of revolution am I speaking about? It simply means that I do not want what I see. I want a radical change. And that is what I'm asking of you as you leave here today. How do we make this more than just a celebration? Look for that radical change. How do we do this? We fight for true freedom because we have never realized that in this country. We demand full citizenship because we have never realized that. And most importantly, we be willing to participate. I heard the panel making this charge to the young folks, but we're not exempt. We also have a duty to participate, not just in trust that the other folks will do that. Now, I'm going to tell you something. A lot of people say to me when I start telling them this, you know, Professor Bell, you're a lawyer and you direct the Civil Rights Institute. So all that stuff you do, you're trained. You know, I'm not trained. And I just want to use this one example that I talk about in the book series to help you understand how little you have to do some work in this movement that is effective. So one day I am walking into Angola because I was invited to speak to the guys about the progress we were making when we were trying to change Louisiana's non-unanimous jury law. And by the way, if you do not know, that piece of history started in the Law Center on this campus. This is a piece of Southern's history that, you know, a professor at this university is funded by this university, is researching at this university, and uncovers this history. And so the very first talk that we had happened at Southern University Law Center in 2016 to go public and let the world know what the research showed us. But one of the things that I wanted to stress to you is when I went back there, it was with the hope that we were going to end this law for everybody. We thought the law was going to be prospective for all the future cases, but it was going to be retroactive for all the people locked up. And so every few months I would go in and give them an update. This is where we are. This is how it's looking. And we were so optimistic. And then the legislature said, look, if you all insist on this being retroactive, you'll never get the law. So it was a tough decision. Do we agree to only prospective and leave these folks behind? And so that morning I said, I don't think I'm gonna go because I don't have anything positive to say to them. How do you tell people that has been meeting with you for months and months and months that all of a sudden we cannot help you as we thought we could? And then I said, if I go, they're going to throw tomatoes. It's going to be a riot. It's going to be all kind of violence in there. And then I said, you know what? Once you make a commitment, I'm old school. I don't care what it takes. You see it through. And so I went in there that morning and I said to them, hey, we got some really good news and we got some news that's not good. And this is a group of about 2,000 men. Many of them are doing life sentences whose only hope is contingent on this effort that we have made. And then I proceed to tell them that the plan is, it looks very hopeful we can get this done prospectively, but not likely retroactively. And there is a collective outburst in the room. People are angry, they're disappointed, they're frustrated, they feel like we sold them out. And then I keep talking. And my message to them was, sometimes the work we do is not really for us. Sometimes the work we do is for the next generation. It's for people that have not yet been born. And so I asked them, as disappointed as they were, I said, sleep on the news and then let me know if you would be willing to help. About a week later, I got a letter back, and it was from a guy in the audience, and he said, Professor Bell, we thought about it. Many of us are fathers. Many of us are uncles. Many of us have children and extended family that could potentially become caught in this dragnet. So no, we're not going to benefit, but this is what we're going to do to partner with you all, because you're fighting for us. So they started, in each dorm, one man got assigned the job of dorm captain. Now, these are people whose families would never go cast a vote. These are not your traditional voters. These are people who feel so locked out of a system that they would never go vote. But because of that organizing inside of Angola, where those men got numbers and said, whoever can't call home, we'll send it out to Professor Bell. She'll get students and we'll start calling. And before you know, we were teaching people how to register to vote. And everybody was excited because they figured out that this is what freedom was for. This is the Juneteenth freedom here. We are participating. We are in this democracy, and we make it work when we show up. 64% of Louisiana voters showed up. 64%, that is unprecedented. And we ended something that had been on the books since 1898. Simply because of this word that I hear on your program called participation. That's all it took. And this was a movement that was ignited by people with no college education, no resources, no law degrees, who simply understood that democracy works when people activate power. And so that is one of the themes in the book. The book also ends up doing, for the first time in the history of the state, an audit of this justice system. And guess what the audit finds? There's 4 findings. 1, the first problem with our justice system, the word freedom is in this theme, so pay careful attention. This justice system failed to create a system that understood what freedom was really supposed to mean. The state failed to create a system to make sure people experience freedom. But worse than that, the United States Congress failed to create a system that was built around freedom. Now, why do I say that? The book explains it, but the short version. If you go to the Reconstruction records when we were debating this 14th Amendment that is supposed to give us this equal protection, that debate is quite illuminating. The debate has some folks that says, well, when we free the enslaved, what we intend is that they will be just like everybody else. So they have civil rights, they have political rights. And then some people said, are you crazy? Are you really serious? You think that we're going to give them, the people who are genetically inferior, the people who cannot think, cannot conduct themselves appropriately, we're going to give them equal rights? Oh, no. And so the sentiment out of the South was, we can tolerate civil rights because that gives you mobility, to let you hold a job, but we're not getting ready to give them no political rights. And so the whole notion of what freedom was never really articulated in that Reconstruction Congress. So what I argue is that we really didn't understand, when we released people, what the terms were supposed to look like. Some people said they're going to be political players. Other people said they're not. That's not going to happen. And we never really accepted for this country the idea that there would be that kind of equality where people would be both civilly and politically equal. And so the book says says if you really want to understand the problem with our justice system and the problem with our jury system, you have to go back to that beginning mistake. And that is the first thing that the audit finds, is that in the beginning, there was no real understanding about how freedom should look. Now, that was on the part of the Reconstruction Congress, but my question for you today is, do you know? Have you even asked yourself, what does freedom look like to me? Because most of us have never even asked that question. And it's unfortunate, most of the time when I talk to people about this, it's somebody doing a life sentence who fully now understands what freedom looks like because they're sitting down without it. But most of us who have freedom really don't know what that should look like. That is one of the big issues that I find in this audit. The second one is that the Reconstruction Congress, when they started thinking about the 15th Amendment in 1870, we think that that has something to do with the vote. That's what we have been taught. We believe that they were concerned about voting rights, but that is not at all how they saw this. They saw the vote as a marriage between the jury and public office. And so in their minds, think about this. What is the purpose of a jury? What is the purpose? It is a voting body. If you strip a jury down to its basics, it's there to cast a vote. So the Reconstruction Congress, when they thought about vote, they were thinking about that kind of vote. When you show up for jury duty, you're there to vote. You're a voter. They were thinking about when you go to elect somebody, when you want to hold office. So they saw those rights as all intertwined. That was a shock to me to really understand that. But once I understood it, it made sense why we have such resistance to allowing Black people in the jury box. Because if you are going to suppress political rights, you see the suppression of voting rights. Well, then naturally, if the three of them are all intertwined, anytime there's an effort to suppress the vote, there will simultaneously be an effort to suppress the presence in the jury box. Now, let me tell you what the research taught me in the book about the jury. Back in the 17 and 1800s in Louisiana, when we had these racial identity trials, where people wanted to make sure the records reflected them as white. You know, I just gave birth to a baby and I want the birth certificate to say this baby's white, but sometimes it would say the baby was not white. So they would get into litigation, and guess how compelling these political rights were? Well, you could get the neighbors to get on the stand and say the person goes to a white church, so they may be white. That is persuasive, but the thing that threw the case over the top was you saying that I have served on a jury before. You saying that I've casted a vote, that there settled it. Because if you had ever been on a jury, then you can't be Black, because that's a site of power. And so one of the things that my research is having us understand is, for the moment that those 12 people are deliberating, they're doing something that not even the President of the United States can do. The president can't even come in the room. The president can't even say guilty or not guilty. That's the kind of power a jury holds. But most of us have no understanding how important that jury box is. It's not just about us going to participate. It's even more and more important under the science, because the science teaches us that there is something magical that happens in deliberations when you get diversity. And I don't mean I just need some Black and white folks, not that kind of diversity. I mean, I want old people, and I want young people, and I want people of different religions, and I want people of different ethnic backgrounds and different income levels. That is the kind of diversity. And why does that matter? Because as we deliberate, somebody's experience is different than the other, and somebody's recall is going to be better than the other. And the science tells us that women actually understand certain things better than men, so they're going to correct the men, and the men can perceive things in a way that is different from women. So with all of those checks, we end up with this jury that is less inclined to make mistakes. And so one of the most important things that you can do to make sure today is not just a day is, when you get the summons, you show up. When you see people around you that don't understand the power of that jury box, make sure they realize that it is the difference between freedom and incarceration for somebody who might be innocent. Louisiana has one of the highest rates of wrongful convictions, and it is because of this conversation. It is not entirely because the government has said you can't show up. It is partly because the government has said you can't show up. And if you want evidence of that, the book cites to the Tilting the Scale series that was done by The Advocate. They won a Pulitzer Prize, and that series shows us statistically that in every jurisdiction around the state, Black jurors are called under the number that is appropriate. So they're not even being called out in their proper numbers, but we also know there's a problem in addition to that. It is us opting out. So we are usually the people that show up and say, I have a hardship. I can't participate. I got to go to work. I don't have childcare. We have a hardship. But then when Lil Boosie have a concert, we don't have a hardship. When there's a parade for Mardi Gras, we don't have a hardship. And so one of the most important things that you can do is help people understand every time you talk about the vote, you really are talking about the jury. And every time you talk about the jury and the vote, you really are talking about elections because the Congress saw them as one. And that is one of the messages in the book. The book also in the audit finds that a lot of times as change agents, we see a person doing a thing and we get upset at the person. And the book teaches the difference between what damage a person can do and the damage a system will do. And most of what we are living is systemic. And so in order to be effective in doing this work, who are you going to fight? Are you going to be mad at that person, or are you going to be mad at the system that is giving birth to the person's behavior? And that is one of the things the audit finds. And then the other thing the audit says is it's a plea that if you want to go about doing something different, remember that the jury box should never, ever be seen in isolation. Instead, it always has to be analyzed for the way it overlaps and intersects with other systems that maintain and rationalize white power, white privilege, and systems that are intending to be punitive by nature. The book also talks to us a little bit about one of my favorite quotes, which is from a man named Darrell Milner. And Mr. Milner says, we are not responsible for the past. None of us are. But we are responsible for our relationship to the past. And so it ends with the charge, what are you going to do? And I want to give you two good examples to think about. The late Johnny Jones, who was Louisiana's civil rights activist, and we had the good fortune at the Law Center to surprise him on his 99th birthday with a cake. And so we were sitting afterwards having cake with Johnny Jones, and we just asked him like some thoughts that he would leave for this next generation of civil rights lawyers. And Johnny Jones said, what I want to share next is that if you see a problem, know it is yours to solve. If you see a problem, know it is yours to solve. And Johnny Jones said that he never saw a problem and said, somebody else needs to do that. What are they going to do about it? Johnny Jones said if he saw a problem, he knew it was his to solve. And so that is one of the things I'm asking us to think about. Stop being so willing to appoint somebody else to do the work and be willing to do some of it yourself. And then the book also talks about our second example, who my book is devoted to, Miss Aretha Castle Haley. Miss Aretha Castle Haley, I met when I was a 16-year-old girl. I didn't know who she was at the time. I later learned, though, that she was one of the students in New Orleans who was demanding that the lunch counters would no longer be segregated. And so she would leave Suno's campus after class and go downtown into New Orleans and protest those lunch counters. And eventually she gets arrested a few times. And then, like most people, that would stop them. But Aretha Castle Haley said, you know what? That's not going to stop me. And she says, I don't even like the way the NAACP is moving, so I'm going to do it different. I'm going to bring CORE down here to Louisiana. So she starts CORE, and they start agitating on steroids. And this woman begins to be an enemy of the state. She had a target on her back and she never ever cared. And what I say about her in the book is that if you are a person that likes segregation, if you like to give people unequal rights, if you believed in injustice, Aretha Castle Haley was a hurricane. But Aretha Castle Haley was no ordinary hurricane. The way I say it in the book is she was actually a Hurricane 5. She was a Category 5 if you ever believed in injustice. And that's what we're asking. Make this today about you being a hurricane. If you can't be a 5, be a 1. But get up and do something to help because the demands are so great. No one person can bear this anymore. And then I'm asking you also to think about this when you think about fighting, fight for freedom. Fight for the word freedom that you now have thought about and defined. When we think about citizen, know that citizenship is all about participation. You can't sit on the sidelines and think I'm a citizen. You have to show up. You have to make people feel uncomfortable when they're dealing injustice in your presence. And the last thing I want to say to you is a question that I always say to my law students. Check yourself periodically, do some self-inventory. And here's the question that I'm going to leave you with. Ask yourself often, what kind of ancestor will the history books record me as? What kind of ancestor will the history books record me as? I thank you for your time. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to entertain questions or is this the close? Okay, it's up to you all. So if you all have any questions or comments, I'm happy to entertain them. No questions or comments? Phoebe, are you? All right, thank you all.
Thank you all so much for staying for our closing session. We started at 9 this morning with a grand opening, a great speaker, and we're ending it with another great speaker. Please give it up for Professor Bell, who shared it. Both of them challenged us, and what I got out of both of their talks was we need to be change agents. We see problems. We know problems exist. And we need to take responsibility and say that we will be a part of the change. We will maybe even lead the change, but we need to do something to help make a change. Juneteenth 2026 is over for the day. Y'all have had a full day of activities. We've had hundreds to come through all of these different sessions and activities, and it's really good that Southern University, the only historically Black college and university system in the United States, was able to have this today for not only the community on campus, but for our community abroad. What a great day it was. We will see you again really soon. I won't even say Juneteenth 2027 because we'll see you before then. We'll continue to have these community events. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Now you go.